Get this shit set up here. All right. Hey, thanks 3 pips. You're here mighty early. Hey, DJ Hot Tub, thank you. Realized I was supposed to be live yesterday, but the hours leading up to it, I was like falling asleep. So even if I was able to stay up for it, I would not have had a good stream. I gotta be like focused. I already have a hard time enough focusing as it is. So thanks for being here, guys, and thank you for the early heart me's. Thanks for the taps. Share the live out if you want. Help get some people in here. Get the conversations rolling. 2 days ago, when I was live, I did get a restriction, so hopefully that won't have any kind of lasting effect. Thanks for the follow, Backpack. Hey, Jerry Berry. Hope you're enjoying the realm. Alright. Bring up our first guest. Hey, Bob, are you at least 18?
Yeah, I'm 34.
Alright, what God do you believe in?
Yeah, the Christian God.
Okay, what's your best evidence for God?
The reprobate mind.
What's that?
You don't know what the reprobate mind is?
No, what's that?
It's the corrupted mind of those that don't believe in God.
So,
And
what
I
you're
believe
saying is
that's proof
that
that he exists.
because people don't believe in God, that proves that God exists?
Well, I think it's evidence that a non-belief in God leads to a reprobate mind.
I thought that you defined the reprobate mind as the corrupted mind that does not believe in God.
Yeah, it would be like a severe moral or spiritual decay. So, for example, on an atheistic worldview, you're a moral relativist, right? So you can get to no objective standard of morality. So if you were talking about like a grapist who overpowers a small child and grapes them and then murders them, you might say that it goes against your preferences, but it wouldn't ultimately be wrong in your worldview. And therefore you have the reprobate mind.
Well, I do know quite a lot of moral realists who are atheists, and I can tell you some of their names if you want to talk to them because they also run lives. So, I mean, atheists are not a monolith like that. And now I don't think that that has anything to do with God's existence, though. People not believing in God, I don't see how that gets you to like because people don't believe in like I could make up something like a kerfluffin or some shit. You don't believe in that. That doesn't prove that it exists.
Well, all I'm saying is that it would seem to me that a non-belief in God leads to a reprobate mind and moral relativism.
Well, that's irrelevant to the topic.
Sure, it is. It's evidence that if you believe that God exists, you tend not to have the reprobate mind.
Well, so is the reprobate mind, is that like a when you say it's corrupt, it doesn't believe. I thought you were saying it doesn't. It's corrupt because people don't believe, um, not that it's corrupt because it doesn't like it's a moral relativist.
Yeah, well, I would just make the argument that it's not so much belief. I think it's being rooted in Christ. And if you view the world that way and you understand that Christ is the reason that you have any knowledge at all, right? And this would be the transcendental argument that the preconditions necessary for knowledge at all can be answered under an atheistic worldview.
So
So
what
not
is
only do
it?
you not have a grounding for knowledge itself, but
Well, what
you
is
end up
it?
with a
What's the
reprobate
grounding
mind.
for knowledge that you would? I guess you would just say that it's God, right? But what's the evidence of this?
Well, I mean, I'm probably not the best at defending the transcendental argument. Someone like Jay Dyer would be much better at that than I would be. But essentially, the argument is that it's a comparison of paradigms, right? So if you take things like he basically broadens it down into three categories: epistemology, ethics, and metaphysics. So metaphysically, for example, there's certain beliefs that you have to hold or presuppose in order to believe that knowledge can even be possible, right? That the external world is real. You have to believe in the self. But all of these things can't be proven through empiricism, right? So under an atheistic worldview, you have to presuppose that those things are true. But in order to have something like justified true belief, just presupposing those things wouldn't actually justify the belief in it itself.
Okay. Well,
There's other things too, like
let's say
the.
we ground it in
Oh, you
something
go ahead.
that's metaphysical or something that's transcendental. Um, how does this get us to God?
Well, it would just seem again, it's a argument to the impossibility of the contrary. So if you were to take other worldviews, and again, you don't have to disprove all worldviews. You can take these categories, right, like metaphysics, ethics, right? Ethics, things can only be subjective or objective. There's no third category that you would have to put in there. So if you can just basically say that, hey, any worldview that posits these three things can't justify actual preconditions for knowledge, then it would seem that that undercuts the worldview itself. But
Well,
the
we don't. I mean,
theistic one can provide that, right?
there's a lot that we don't know about the world, and I don't
Sure.
necessarily think that I have a justification for absolutely everything that I believe, right? So that's a fair point, but I don't think that making up an answer is the answer. Saying that
Well, I
there's
don't think it's
a
making up an
transcendental,
answer.
well, yeah, because well, atheist, what's your grounding? You don't have one? Well, then it's God. I pulled God out of my ass, and that's the answer. I don't see how that's really substantive. I don't get how that actually proves God.
Well, because the theistic argument would prove things like the external world is real. It would make sense of that. It would be coherent. Uniformity in nature. If there's a theological purpose to the creation of the universe, we would expect to see uniformity in nature. When we start talking about ethics, right? Again, from your worldview, if the rapist unalives a small child and grapes it, it hasn't done anything ultimately wrong. But under my ethical system, if God is real, it provides a basis for objective moral claims, which to me is completely coherent. I'd have to deny my own reality in order to take up your worldview.
I
And so
think
that's the
that the
argument
moral
from.
argument is like completely removed, in my opinion, of like demonstrating that God is real or not real. Like, because
That's fine.
if there is no objective good or bad, that has nothing to do with the existence of God.
I always looked at the objective moral argument as being more of a, if God exists, then there can be objective morals. If there is no God, you're stuck in moral relativism, and I think that that's true. And I think that most sophisticated atheists like Bertrand Russell and other folks would agree
Well,
with that.
if we have, let's say that there is moral relativism, Would you say that there is moral relativism, therefore, um, like God exists or something, or there's no God, or that's bad or something like that?
Well,
I mean,
I think, yeah.
I'm missing the connection. It's like if there is moral relativism, what does that have to do with the existence of God?
Well, I mean, moral relativism, though, I don't think would get you to an objective standard, right? So
Why
there's
is
a
one
few things
important?
with moral realism that, well, there's certain things, right? Like there's an argument from disagreement, and that argument points to like things like a deep and persistent disagreement about morality across cultures and individuals. So people disagree about things like capital punishment, abortion, war, animal rights. So it would seem to have this moral realist argument isn't really grounded in any sort of objectivity.
Yeah, well, I'm personally not a moral realist. I just know plenty of atheists who are. It is something that
That defend it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have some pretty compelling arguments. I still think that there's ultimately a flaw. I think it's just a category error, but I don't see that, I don't see how if objective moral facts exist, that means that God exists. Like, if we take that for a second, we say objective moral facts exist, therefore God exists. So that's like you're trying to prove God by using the moral argument. But you can really only demonstrate this, like you'd have to, okay, let me think about this. You have to support the premise that if objective moral facts exist, okay, you'd have to demonstrate that objective moral facts exist, right? You could do that either with reference to God or without reference to God. Now, if you use reference to God to prove that objective moral facts exist, then the argument is circular because the conclusion is that God exists. But if you prove that objective moral facts exist without reference to God, then you've proven that it doesn't need to be rooted in God. It has nothing to do with whether or not God exists because you can demonstrate that they exist without God.
Yeah, well, I think that's maybe one of the weaknesses of the moral argument is I don't think you can actually prove objective morality. I think the best you can do is look at things that go on around you and say that, like, for example, I don't know, if somebody lit a small child on fire and you listen to them scream until they unalived, you would have to deny your own real world experience and say that that was objectively wrong and just say, well, it goes against my preference. And I think that's the strongest part of the moral argument because if you look at that and you say, like, no, that's not a subjective interpretation of a right or wrong, that actually is wrong, then you can use the moral argument to say, well, the only way that things can be objectively wrong, that means that there's a standard outside of ourselves that we can point to, would be if God exists. And I
Well, we
think
don't
that's
even
maybe the
have,
strongest
let's
suit
say
of
that
it.
that's true. Like, we wouldn't even have access to that standard. People pretend like they know what God's standard is, but they have no way of actually gleaning this
Well, if
information.
Christianity is true, you've got divine revelation through the Bible, right? You don't get everything like you wouldn't, get something like. I mean, I think you could deduce to it, right? Like you could say something like, a girl, showing her booty hole on OnlyFans isn't mentioned in the Bible as being specifically wrong, but you can take the context of the Bible and apply that to things that are going on around you, and I think that you can get to a decent,
Yeah, I mean,
objective moral.
I would certainly wouldn't use the Bible for any standard of objective morals. There's a lot of horrible things in there from God, but like, there's a lot of other religious books that have some good parts in it and some bad parts in it. There are ethics that predate the Bible. You know, you could grab one of those older ones and map your morality onto that and think that it's from God and still be just as wrong.
Yeah, well, the Bible wouldn't. Again, the Bible wouldn't prove that God is real. I do think that you can look at things like the gospel, the historicity of the Bible. It gets a lot of things right. I think the things that folks like you run into is the thing on slavery, right? That's usually one of the big ones that I hear from atheists that
Hmm.
I encounter.
Yeah,
And the
slavery
first thing
and
I always ask
genocide.
them is all forms of slavery bad? And almost always they tell me that they are. All forms of slavery are bad. And I'm like, okay, well, what about indentured servitude? Back in these times, this is pre-industrial revolution. There were no grocery stores. We didn't have these giant machines to make an overabundance of food. So there were people that were starving. There were people that couldn't get by on their own, and they would enter into these agreements of indentured servitude in order to survive. So is that really wrong? I would make the
Well,
argument that it's
well, it
not.
just depends. Like if you're entering into something where you're owned as property, I think that that is wrong. Now I think that it's not as bad as the chattel slavery that's mentioned in the Bible, or like when a man sells his daughter into slavery, usually to be a bride or something. I think that's pretty messed up. So I mean, yeah, you could like look at one that's pretty bad, but not as bad as the worst kind, and kind of put lipstick on a pig. But I mean, there's not just the slavery thing. There's like genocide that's prescribed in the Bible. There's like cannibalism and rape being used as punishment by God. There's all sorts of problems.
Yeah, but even genocide, like, and I guess the problem I have with atheism is genocide isn't ultimately wrong in their worldview. So, like, I get that
It
they've got
is.
issues with the Bible. How
It is
so?
like even if it's subjective, it's still something that we would hold is wrong. Like we have our own moral framework independent of God. Like we all look at God and his moral framework through our own filter. Even if you're a believer, if God does something, you're going to judge it through your own filter. And if he says that something that you would intuitively say is wrong, um, is actually right, you would have to just have faith or something. You'd be doing something that's completely against your moral intuition, to just agree with that judgment call, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that we all look at things through our own moral intuition. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But when you say something is wrong, right, that implies that there's some sort of standard for wrong. And that
Yeah,
you give that up
yeah.
the minute that you're a moral
We have our
relativist.
own. I mean, so I would say that we just have explanations for why we feel this way. This is based on our biology. This is based on society that we exist in. This is based on our logical reasoning, our values that we have. In your value, I think your values is what's going to determine your framework ultimately. And these things like
Sure,
you
even if
could.
even if I agreed with that, the problem though is it true? Right? Because it seems like in a moral relativist
It's just
viewpoint,
as
we
true
just
as
make it
any.
up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's I wouldn't say that it's objective. Like there's some kind of rule that's written cosmically, because I don't know that it's independent of us. I don't know that life is good, right? I think that life and death are pretty equal in the grand scheme of the cosmos. But since I happen to be someone who is alive, I have a bias towards life. And since I'm a human being, I'm going to have a bias towards human empathy, human emotion, human biology, human needs. So that's all going to inform a human morality. Like God would have a completely separate morality than us because he's got different priors, and mine would
Yeah,
be
and I
different if
think
I
I would
was in a
agree with
different
you on that.
culture. It's just
Yeah,
an
no, I think I would agree
explanation,
with you on
but
all
we
that.
still
But the
genuinely
problem
feel
though,
we still genuinely feel the way that we do about things. When we say something's good or bad, it's a value judgment. We're telling somebody how we feel about it. And you can say, well, it's not objectively wrong. It's like, I don't fucking care. It's wrong to me. It's actually egregious to me, right? Like if I have something of sentimental value, it's not objectively valuable, but it's deeply valuable to me.
sure, and I wouldn't disagree with that. But the problem I think that you run into, right, is ultimately you can't say that it's ultimately wrong, right? It's your preference. Because really that's what it
I don't
is.
see
It's
that
your
as a
preference.
problem.
What is a problem? Because if you run into somebody who, like, let's say you see something as being wrong, right? And you run into somebody who doesn't see that thing as being wrong, what would make you right?
It would just depend on what the values are. If we are sharing the same values, then he would be wrong. But if he doesn't share my values, if he has different values that affirm what he's doing, then in his perspective he'd be right. But in my perspective he'd be wrong. As you said, it's relative. I mean, just
Right? And
saying
that's
saying that
incoherent.
it's relative, and that it's bad because it's relative doesn't really do anything. Also,
I'm not
we're
even saying
we're
it's bad.
far
I'm just saying it's
removed.
incoherent.
It's perfectly coherent because you understand it. You just said it back to me. But it's
No,
also
no,
far
no,
removed
it's
from the topic.
incoherent. It's incoherent in the sense that, like, for example, we share values. You and I, we both live in the United States, right? We share values. But when it
Hmm.
comes to things like AB, right, you'll argue that, well, actually, I don't even know where you stand on it, but some people will argue that AB is justified. Some people will argue against it, right? So we can both arrive at different conclusions using logic and using our own preferences.
Hmm.
The point is that neither one of us are actually wrong in your worldview. The person who unalives the baby in the womb, they're right. The person who's against it and thinks they have intrinsic value, they're also right. And that's the incoherency of it, is if they're both right, neither one of them are wrong, then how do you get to anything being wrong? That's the point.
When we do morality as a society, we're trying to come together to come up with the best system that works for society at large. Well, not always. I mean, sometimes there's certain things where you want to make sure you protect the like minority and everything like that. But we're trying to make the world as good of a livable place as we can, and we all have different ideas as to what that looks like. But since we share the space, we just have to collaborate. What was I going to say about this? If people are holding it to an objective morality, they'll be stubborn and they won't be able to conform or compromise. If somebody believes in a fake God and somebody else believes in a different fake God, and they both have antithetical moral values that they believe are objective, they will never agree. They will never give any leeway. They will probably kill each other at some point over something stupid. And they're both belligerent, and you cannot work with them because they believe in stupid bullshit that isn't true. It's preventing them from collaborating and making progress with each other. Meanwhile, the people who don't believe in God, or maybe who believe in God but are relativists regardless, they're actually able to compromise and work together and make progress.
Yeah, that only works if God isn't real, because what you're saying is I appeal to the collective, right? The collective society determines what is good or bad, but we know, like, we can demonstrate that that's just not true, because it was once legal to own slaves, right? The collective deemed that was a good thing.
I wouldn't say that that's my position, no.
Okay, I thought you said as a society we kind of come together and decide what like morality is.
We try to. I mean, there's morality on a societal level, and there's morality on an individual level, and there's society. I mean, it evolves and changes. It ebbs and flows. But we are far away from the topic of God's existence at this point.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the conversation, man. I'll probably sit in and listen a little bit, see who the next caller is, but you've been a good faith debater, so I appreciate the call.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Have a good night. My name's also Robert, so let's bring up the next person. Hey, Johan, are you at least 18?
No, sir, sorry.
Yeah, you better be. Alright, Christ follower. Christ follower, are you at least 18?
Jesus loves you.
Man. Wait a minute. I'm not I'm not a children's creator. What the hell? I don't have, so it was Bob, and then there was two children that wanted to talk to me. So the guest box is currently open. While I'm waiting for a guest, I'm going to get up to do something real quick.
Well, Lubes is getting a beer. Yeah, Lubes is getting a beer right here. Didn't you hear that boy Lubes is getting himself a note of beer? Yeah, so you should get one too. I said it's beer time. Yeah, it's beer time. Whoa. Flippity flappity flapping door below. Bitch. What kind you get? Ooh, that shit looks good. Yeah, baby, yo. Bitch.
Hey, John Alex, are you at least 18?
Yes, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Hope you are too. What God do you believe in?
I believe it's same God you do. None whatsoever. Because a bunch of freaks, genocidal, all the religions cause all the problems on earth, and you know it, I know it, and you're one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I hope that you keep going at it, because once we get rid of the stupid religions that causes genocide, sexual, all kinds of things to people in the name of God, gone then we're going to be loving each other. The whole humanity going to get together, and none of this Holocaust or Israeli genocides and all that crap will go away.
Well, I really hope so. Thanks for coming up, John. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we have opposition here. Hey, DJ Marker, you at least 18.
Jesus loves you, bro.
Oh, it's a different account. Same kid. Hey, actually, can we like block that account if I have a mod in here? I don't need children watching this. This is not for kids. I talk about all kinds of crazy shit on here sometimes. I think I got it. All right, yeah, I blocked the account. Yeah, I blocked it. If they come up again, just block that one too. I mean, it's not even just a me thing. Like, I already don't want to talk to minors on the internet. But even if I did, it's not TOS, right? Well, let's see. We'll do this here. Play something smooth. Let me see. We have support from Pettyvoc tonight and 3 Pips, DJ Hot Tub. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. We're still waiting for a guest, so share out the live. Keep tapping the screen. If you haven't sent your heart me already, send that. It does help the algorithm. More people we get in here, more conversations we can have, and that's why everybody's here in the first place. So, continue to support. I appreciate you guys. Let me check over here. Hey, Sebastian, what's up, man? Is the music playing double? Like, does it sound like, does it sound like it's messed up or something? Oh, hey, McD. Are you at least 18? McD?
Hello.
Hey, are you at least 18?
Hi.
Hi. Are you at least 18?
I'm sorry. That there's something screwy with my connection. Apologies. It's glitchy. If you ask me, am I over 18? Yeah.
Okay. What God do you believe in?
Yeah, triple.
Okay. Well, what God do you believe in?
God.
Any specific religion? Is like Christian?
Sorry, brother.
Yeah, this is a bad connection, huh?
No, not really. I was raised. Yeah. Hey, this seems like a really interesting conversation. It could be pretty cool. You seem like a chill guy, but I have such a bad connection, but I hope that I can connect again because I'd love to continue.
All right, McD. Thanks for coming up. We'll try again when you have a better connection. Lacadian has sent 200 comments in my live. Imagine going somewhere and saying 200 things. I feel like that's a lot of things to say. Oh, thanks, Ether Jumper. You know, sometimes I think I'm just a cutie pie. Yeah, like Aiden's got a lot on his mind. Well, I'm bummed out that the music was double playing. Let me know if this one does. Wasn't double playing for you? Well, good, Momo. That's good. Thanks, honkers. Oh, hang on, wait. This might be fun.
Oh, hey, what's up, Lobes?
What's up, dude? Hey, everybody over here in my live, make sure you're following Paper Cutout Theater. This dude's hilarious.
Oh, hey, what's going on, y'all? Hey, Lobes, what brings you around these parts, anyway?
I was running some debates, but I didn't have any guests, and then it came up as a suggestion to co-host with you, so I'm going to do this briefly.
Oh, yeah, well, you can just say hello for a second, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody else here that wants to talk to you right quick.
Oh,
You
good.
know it, brother! You and me have got a lot of beef. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's me, the savior with the most flavor. Yeah, coming at you from on
no.
high, from the highest turnbuckle, bringing you the flying elbow drop of salvation. Yeah,
Not
what
the
do you gotta
Holy
say
Chief.
for yourself, Lobes? I'm here standing before you.
Hey.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm not a mythicist. I never said you don't exist.
Yeah,
Your dad.
you don't know what you don't know, yeah, and you don't know me like you think that you do, yeah. Now you're having a cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right, but it's okay. The cream rises to the top. Remember that, everybody. Yeah.
Oh my God, Jesus! I don't know what to say. Hey, can you tell my future?
Kapow, pow, kapow! Yes, yes. You distracted him, Lobes. I was able to get the advantage on him finally. At long last, it is I, Lucifer. Finally.
Here we go.
Getting yes, you are doing my message well. Yes, let everyone know. Continue your live. Fuel my message.
That's
Every
right,
one of your
man.
live streams makes me stronger. Hey, get back now. He's Lobes. And even though he sits there and talks a lot of smack about me, he's still my buddy at the end of the day. And I get a piece of him before you do, Satan. Now you be gone. Be gone, Satan. Yeah. Oh, he's gone. Don't worry about it. You're all right.
Oh shit! I was about to say something.
I saved you. Yeah.
Well, that was very nice of you, but we were just
Yeah, I
having
know.
a
So now you can't do
conversation.
your live stream anymore. Yeah. You got to tell people that I was there. You witnessed me. You can't tell people that I don't exist anymore because I just appeared before you. Yeah.
Jesus, it's okay. I'll tell people that you're real, but I don't know about your dad still. Don't know about your dad.
No, he's real too. He and I are the same. He is me and we are in. Cuckoo Cachoo, I am the Eggman. Yeah.
Cuckoo Cachoo.
That's right. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, peace be with you, my child. Be on. Yeah. And remember that I'm always in your heart and I'm always watching you. I've got my eye on you, okay?
Like Santa
We've got our eye on you.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Both of
We're
you
all
guys.
watching you.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys on Christmas. All right. Good night. Hail Satan.
Yeah.
Whoops. Whoa. Does this look fucked up to you guys too? What happened here? Let's adjust this shit. What the fuck? Yeah, guys, that was Paper Cutout Theater. I discovered him, I don't know, a couple months ago. Fucking funny. He does lives about, he does little skits. He usually just co-hosts and, what is this? What is this shit? He usually just does co-host stuff, and people react to him. Okay, that's where's my dude? That co-host thing kind of fucked everything up. I don't know where this is. Hang on. Woo. Uh-oh, technical difficulties. Okay, let's see. So that should be above. this. Let's apply that. Don't even see it anywhere. This is so strange. What is this shit? I don't know what that. Alright, well, I'll have to fix this later. Anyway, still waiting for guest. Usually that dude will do a Pendejo Pete is his main character. And he's got like they all have cheeks. They're all cheeked up. Except his Pokemon characters, he gives them like cloaca. He draws like a little X on the back. You know, classy. But he's got so many. He's got like Marvel characters. You know, like I said, he's got Pokemon. He's got some like knights and all sorts of shit. He goes live multiple times like a day too. I catch him around the clock. Still nothing going on over on YouTube. What if I were to just delete this source? I'll do that later. I'll just fix it later. I mean, I could do a restart. What do we think? Restart? Are you in an elevator? Straight to hell, buddy. But it's okay, because we're on the same elevator. I'm on the elevator to hell. Says somebody just joined from one of my posts, but I haven't posted in forever. I wonder what it was. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right, Jerry. This elevator has beer. It's got that rad little thing. Yeah, I'll poll you guys. How are we feeling about a restart? Smiley face for restart, crying face for no restart. I'm trying to get some convos in here. Oh, hang on. We do have... Well, I'll so there's somebody requesting. It's TJ Boomin. I've talked to him before. Vote still stands. It could help the algorithm, so. If you don't change your vote, then that's fine. I'll take it as a yes, let's restart. Where is that shit? Oh, what the hell? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do that restart just to kind of help us get back in the algorithm. I don't know what happened. So anyway, if you haven't followed me already, just give me a follow. Come right back. Let's try this one more time, guys. Okay, I fixed it. This is back now. I know, right? Usually I'm really fast. I was trying to fix the widget. Yeah. You guys were fucking fast, though. Damn. You guys were real fucking fast. Yeah, well, I mean, because usually I'll just click off and click right back on. But I had to fix the widget after the co-host. It screwed everything up. So I had to fix that shit. My meter was missing. My, like, thank you for following widget that comes in the corner. That was, like, way off here to the side, but I couldn't tell what it was because it had, like, made it invisible. Hang on, is that even... Yeah, okay. Alright, cool. So you guys know the drill. Tap the likes back up, share it out and everything. Get back into the algorithm here. TikTok's trying to make you invisible. What, like, what, trying to cancel you or something? Alright, we got a guest here. Hey, Rye, are you at least 18?
Yes, sir.
Alright, what God do you believe in?
I'm a Muslim, sir.
Okay, what's your best evidence for God?
My best evidence for God is that you say, okay, it's common sense to me because when you look at the universe, look how perfect it is, even the planets. So when you look at the universe, have you heard of the scientific theory? Or it's proven true. If the Earth was placed near a little bit of gravity, they wouldn't have any signs of life because the water wouldn't be able to form because it'd be too much gravity. It would overpower it. If it was any less, it was also it can't. It would wouldn't be possible. So, are you saying every life here is just pure chance?
Yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't seem like that interesting to me that we exist in the only place that we could exist to exist, right? Um, have you ever heard of this puddle analogy where, like, the puddle comes to life and thinks to itself, wow, this hole in the ground that I find myself in is, like, perfectly fitting to my form. It must have been created just for me. That's like us looking at our environment, when really the environment is what gave rise to us, and it can only give rise to us if the conditions are right. Most of the places you look at in the universe does not have life because the conditions aren't right, because it's a very unlikely thing to happen. And, you know, we find ourselves in one of those spots where it's possible. So it does.
So when you talk about the puddles, I mean, a puddle is it's really just dirt and water. But when you look at ourselves, we have our own fingerprints, our own DNA, our own alleles that we have for our genetics. You think, like, that's just too much to me. I don't think that can just happen on its own. There has to be some kind of creator that could have created it. That's
Okay,
what I just think.
have you, I mean, it sounds like you just don't understand the science, and like I'm kind of a layman when it comes to the science myself. But not understanding the concept doesn't mean that some other hypothesis is true, like the God thing. Let's say
Yeah.
that abiogenesis, or well, let's say like abiogenesis evolution. You're not convinced it's that. So what's the evidence that it's God that made us?
Evidence that God made us. Well, if you look at the Quran, right? I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to compare anybody, not to be like rude or anything, but
He
it has
won't.
proved a lot of ours. Like if you look at in space, right? You look at space. It said in the Quran, or no, not just space. If you look, yeah, in space, it says the universe is constantly expanding, and that's what Prophet Muhammad said 1,800 years ago, before science proved that. So how do you think a man could prove that before they were scientists proved it?
I mean, there's lots of things that even something like the Bible would say about the world. Like it said that aquatic animals came before land animals, and that part in the Bible is true, you know. But I mean, that's not interesting to me either. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Quran says that the mountains are like pegs that go deep into the earth and stabilize it. That's obviously not fucking true. It says that sperm comes between the chest and the like backbone and the rib cage. That's obviously not true. It could say all sorts of stuff that is true, because I think that if you make enough predictions, you're bound to say something that's right. A broken clock is correct twice a day.
When does it ever say that? What's your statement? What verse is it?
No, I don't have the let me see if I can find. I don't usually need to usually the Muslims I talk to are already familiar. So let me see. Um, Quran. Verse about which one were you talking about? The mountains or the sperm?
The second one.
Okay, Surah at Tariq. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these things correctly. Surah at Tariq 86, 6 through 7. He is created from a drop emitted, proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs. Uses the word nut fat? No way it uses the word nut fat. That's crazy. That's not how it's pronounced. Newt. That's like kind of perfect though. Translate to drop, small drop, solb. Okay, location. Mixture of male and female reproductive fluids recreated from the union of the two, the backbone and the ribs. Region refers to the general area where the two reproductive organs are located, not exact. Okay, the sperm production, yeah. Yeah, between the backbone and the ribs is not correct. It is. I am really tickled though that the Arabic uses a word that's spelled Nutfat.
What does that mean?
Well, that's like for drop or sperm drop.
Oh.
I think that's a
Okay.
really funny. It's like really perfect.
I also have another statement. So, what's the harm of not believing? Because say you're an atheist and you're right, okay? You're gonna get the same result as everybody else, just nothing. I guess what you guys believe in just don't exist anymore. But if you believe in a God, right? Any God, even the devil believes in God. Like that's even if you think about it, if he's going against him, he knows he exists. So I'm just saying, what's the harm in believing? Because if you're right, you get heaven. Like that's whoa, there's nothing better than that. And if you're wrong, that's eternal punishment. So, what's the harm in believing and just
Well,
not taking the chance?
this is Pascal's wager, and like usually I have to explain this to Christians why it's not convincing to someone from the outside by saying something like, why would I choose the Christian God if the Muslim God is correct? And I would just say the inverse to you. Why would I choose to believe as if you can choose what you believe in the Muslim God if the Christian God is the true God? Or if there's some God that's real that nobody's discovered because he doesn't care to interact with us. Maybe he just wants to watch. You can't make yourself believe anything anyway. And even if you could, I would just pick whichever one had like the like, I guess I would stay away from the one with the worst hell, I think, is what I would do.
Yeah.
If I could
Yeah,
choose.
I'm gonna head out, but yeah, appreciate you and hope you find God and hope you have a good life, bro.
All right, I hope you stop believing in God. Have a good one. He sounded so disappointed. Oh. Oh man, hey, thanks Lupine for the heart me. GM sent some roses, thank you. Violet, I thank you for the helping out and both sidesing, of course. Yeah, I think guys for the gifts and stuff. Thanks, Gavin. Thank you. All right, let's bring up this next person here. Hey, Daniel, you're at least 18.
Yes,
What God do you believe in?
I believe in the God of the Bible. I'm a Christian.
Okay, what's your best evidence for God?
I would have to say that it is actually a like accumulation of the coherence of reality itself, right? So to give one answer, I couldn't just give one answer, but it's a lot of things that we would have to really consider as humans. And I think that the Christian worldview best describes and coherently explains the reality that we live in.
Okay, so go ahead.
So for me, I think the greatest evidence for God is that without him, the world you and I actually live in would cease to make coherent sense.
Can you support that?
Sure. Like things like truth and like moral obligation, justice, hope, forgiveness, suffering, things that I think every worldview has to answer for. And I think brain farts and, you know, chemical things going on in the brain just is not a sufficient answer for some of the things that we really see going on in the world, you know?
I mean, like they obviously come from somewhere, right? But if we can't demonstrate where they come from, and I think that some people could demonstrate it better than I could from a naturalistic standpoint. But let's just say I have no idea. Why would I assume that it's impossible without God?
Impossible.
These phenomena.
What as far as the things that I just discovered,
Yeah, the
mentioned,
list
I
you, the
don't
little
think.
list you gave, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it would be like you couldn't do it as an atheist, but at the end of the day, you have no reason as to why someone ought to actually be a good person. Or, you know, again, when we talk about things like love, for instance, and we talk about things like fidelity, right?
Well,
We obviously no one
you
wants to
well,
be
let me do
cheated
this.
on.
You listed truth as one of those things.
Yeah, I
So
did.
would you say that like without God, truth would not exist?
I think that there are things that we can discuss that don't require, I guess you could say, God. For instance, like science and things, which is something that a lot of people like to really like hone in on. Which is, you know, obviously there's scientific fact that we can say this is true. Gravity is real. And so, no, you would not necessarily need God for that truth. What kind of truth are you talking about, though?
Well,
Just
you
to make
just
sure
said
I'm
you said truth just in general. You were kind of listing things, and truth was just on the list. So I guess
okay.
whatever you were talking about that you think is
Well,
like is
so
dependent on
truth.
God.
Yeah, so I mean, like truth in the sense of, I mean, and one of the things that that I see is one of those rabbit holes that eventually go circular is things like morality, like what is true in that regard. And without, without a God, everything is truly subjective. And then, you know, when you get into the subjectivity of why something is bad, it's merely just preference. And so we do say that, hey man, it's not okay to do the Jeffrey Epstein thing, but no one's really forcing you not to. And if you do, well, that's just your preference. With God, there's a standard as to a law outside of the laws of man. Whereas, hey, you know,
That just sounds like it's
when
a
we talk
nice
about,
thing to believe in. Like you're objectively justified, but I'm not able to like I'm an anti-realist. I do know a lot of atheists that are objective moral realists, and I think that they have some pretty compelling arguments. It's really given me pause to the anti-realism thing, I'll admit. But I'm still an anti-realist currently. And like I just don't think that feeling passionate about morality or saying that something is always good or always wrong in all circumstances is any justification to say that it's objective. I don't think that it's important necessarily that morality is objective. I think that if we have this view that it is, then we'll just be stubborn and we won't be able to compromise and hear each other out. Because if you think God told you that killing babies was okay, then nobody could tell you otherwise, right? Like you would just be this idiot that listens to a voice in your head that tells you to go and kill babies, right? Like so. Like, and if two opposing religious people who, let's say they both believe in gods that are not real, they have wildly different moralities, perhaps, they're not going to listen to reason. It's just going to cause conflict.
I understand what you mean by that, and I agree that there's a lot of times where when you speak to Christians and you ask them about specific things, the answer is often, well, because the Bible says so. And I think a lot of times that it they don't even know why they believe what they believe.
Do you mind if I bring up a
I
friend?
think, oh no, that's
Yeah,
okay.
he's requesting, so I haven't talked to him in a while. So
Okay, yeah,
this is
but I
nice.
mean, like for instance, we're talking about like truth, and then I brought up like morality, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about because it's, I think for me, especially when we consider the fact of like the things that we see going on in the news and the TV.
Real quick,
It's
just to like before you go down the like moral argument for God, I just want to kind of address that it's not really going to do anything. Like the moral argument for God is one of the worst arguments for God, and I'll just explain why. Like the idea is that if objective moral truths exist, or if objective moral facts exist, then God exists. But in order to demonstrate that that's true, that objective moral facts exist, you can only do it in one of two ways. You can either do it with reference to God, but that would make the argument circular since God's the thing that you're trying to prove. Or you could do it without reference to God and prove that objective moral facts exist without utilizing God, but then you would just be proving that you don't need God to have objective moral facts. So it's gonna fail in both categories.
Sure, no, and like what I was gonna say is like I like to talk about that because at least in my opinion, that's a very strong argument
It
that
tugs at the
often.
heartstrings. Like if it's not meant to like give, if what you're doing is not to give like propositional evidence, if what you're doing is trying to like invoke a certain emotion out of people, I think it's like it would be convincing for the wrong reasons.
Sure, and that's the thing that I would want everybody to know about Christianity is that it's not it's not compulsive. I forget what, I think it might be compulsive, but we're not trying to force anybody or coerce anybody or like you said, like tug on the heartstrings, right? Although, I mean, hey, that's also that part of just being human, right? But again, what about things like justice? Like what is justice? Because even though these are, you can't quantify it or measure it, which is scientifically something that a lot of people,
Justice is the act of holding somebody accountable for their actions.
and so when there is injustice, like who can really say, well, that's
holding,
who can say that's really injustice? If there's, again, if everything is subjective.
Hold on, Daniel. Here's an example of injustice. Holding somebody accountable for the actions they did not perform. That would be an example of injustice. Would you agree with that?
Holding somebody accountable for an action that they did not do. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, like say your grandfather robbed a bank. And since your grandfather robbed a bank, you have to go to jail for bank robbery. That would be an example of injustice because you, as an individual, did not rob that bank. That would be injustice, correct?
I could agree to that.
Right. So when it comes to like the value of justice, this is something that is an intersubjective thing. Now, these judgments are made based upon the evidence for the actions that people perform. Now, this would be the same in regards to like morality. It is a value judgment that is made. And unfortunately, throughout human history, it has never been established or justified that it is independent of minds or stances. It is subjective in all categories.
So what you're saying is like justice does not exist independently of people, but it also isn't merely like my personal opinion. Is that what you mean by like intersubjective?
Yeah, it's a consensus value on what ought not be done.
Okay, because justice exists because rational humans and communities collectively agree on it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and what makes that consensus just?
Because it is taking the judgment of accountability into consideration.
And it's trying to be
So
fair, where a punishment will fit the crime. Like if you could overcorrect, or you could not do enough. Like if you got the death penalty for stealing a candy bar, I think that's an injustice. Though, like you're still trying to hold someone accountable. It's like overkill. And then if you've got somebody who's a serial killer and you find them $5, that's like obviously also an injustice.
okay, now I guess it would just have to. My question would be like, according to what standard beyond the consensus?
You mean an objective standard?
That's a nonsensical question, because the consensus value is that standard that is agreed upon between the agents that hold personal views or stances.
Like I'm
So I
of
guess
the
this
belief
is
that we invented justice. Like us living organisms invented it, because we recognized things that we didn't like happening. We wanted to put a stop to it. So in order to stop and prevent future, we'll say like transgressions, we set up systems that are personal to us and our values, depending on where we are and when we are in time, on how to handle this to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
so. I guess in a nutshell, would you say that we just kind of like progressed as a society and said like, hey, we don't like this, and
Yep.
we need to do something about it. And so we're going to define this thing called justice that we as a community are going to collectively
Yep.
deem.
Yes. And also yes.
I think we developed
Oh,
it before we had a name for it, but yeah.
do you think that it's possible for a society to be morally wrong?
From
In regards to other societies, in the perspective of another society, yes. Like, for example, according to the American society or American culture, marrying children is not okay. But according to countries like Iran, marrying children is okay.
And so they're justified in doing that.
They
Well, I
would
wouldn't say
say
they
they would
are.
say so, but we wouldn't.
Well,
It's also
okay,
like
so
you
that's
could
my
also it could also
thing
be
though.
wrong from an individual level. Like if I live in America and they have like there's a culture, I think that you would probably fit into this category pretty nicely too. Like people always have a problem with their culture wherever they live. Like there's a cultural norm that they disagree with. They think maybe like wearing a bikini. Some people don't like that. They think it's morally wrong. I don't see. I personally don't have an issue with it. But if I did, or maybe you do, then you might say that like, oh well, we're just wrong as a culture. You know, that's obviously incorrect. Or like the topic of the death penalty, for instance. Some people would say that that's something that we need to remove from our culture, while other people would say that it's necessary. And this is why like it's an ongoing back and forth between different agents with different values.
And I think for me, that's where I draw the line and say, you know what, like going back to truth. Like truth to me is something that regardless of location, regardless of whatever government structure you have, I don't care if you're in Iran, I don't care if you're in China, I don't care if you're in America, I don't care wherever on planet Earth or in the
That's
intergalactic in their intergalactic
yeah.
space that we have,
That's
it is wrong to do this. This thing is wrong.
well.
And so,
Wait,
you know, it's one of
no,
those
that's
things.
not. That's
Well, let
that's
me.
a judgment. That's a judgment based on your stance and your
So,
preferences.
okay, so again, going back to children, it's okay in Iran. So we're just gonna say, you know what, Iran, you're justified in doing that.
Somebody corrected me in the comments. Some states actually still do support child marriage in the United States, and I think that there's
I think
at
almost
least
half of them. Almost half of them, I think.
well,
I guess
I think it's less than that. It's in between like 10 and 15, I think now, but it's decreasing.
Ooh.
I,
That, yeah.
going back to kind of
What I'll say, Daniel, is when it comes to truth, it is either going to be a personal subjective truth or a stance, or it's going to be a mind independent or stance independent truth. Now, do you understand the difference between the two? One is subjective, and that's a truth that people hold, and the other is objective, and that would be a truth whether or not there is a stance.
or so are you asking if I know the difference between objective and subjective truth?
Yes. Like, for example,
Yes.
a value on goodness or a value on badness, those would both be under the category of subjective or stance-dependent truth because there is a value judgment made there. There's no such thing as an objective judgment. That would be a category error.
Okay, no, I mean I get what you're saying, and I understand, but I think to me the thing that is, I guess, trying to put my finger on the pulse would be, is to say that consensus and the subjective truth that everybody can, that you mentioned, that we, I guess, for me, I would say there has to be an objective truth, but consensus may explain why people agree about justice, but it cannot explain why justice should correct the consensus. And I go back to,
It's an
can a
explanation.
society
It's
be
not like it's saying that it should. It's just an explanation for why it exists in the first place.
But if we go back to the consensus and justice, we go back to like Germany.
If there is good that is a judgment, that would be in accordance to a value that a stance or a purview is applying. For example, if somebody believes that their moral standard comes from a God, that would be a subjective value that people are applying because of the simple fact that there is no mind or stance independent evidence of a God existing. And since there is no mind or stance or objective mind or stance independent or objective evidence for God, then this value judgment that morality comes from God would be a subjective framework,
Right.
or a
Yeah.
set of preferences that are dependent upon a stance and a mind. Therefore, theology or theism is a stance dependent view on morality.
Yeah, one thing that I used to always say is that it is your subjective opinion that morality is objective. I think that basically sums up what Tiny just basically said. Like, even if you hold that it's
But
from a God, that's your subjective opinion that morality is objective and it comes from God. But I would just
those are
ask you,
two
like,
different arguments, though.
have you ever heard of the Eupatro dilemma?
Well, I've heard of it. You're gonna have to refresh my memory, but
Yeah,
I do
it's
want to kind of go back to what he said, though, because in saying that if somebody believes morality comes from God and that it's subjective because there's no mind independent evidence that God exists, in that claim is actually making two claims, and that is something that
No, it's making
for me, those are different arguments,
It's making
because one's an
one claim.
epistemological claim and then the other one's
No.
a metaphysical claim.
It's making no. One is making it's under the category of a purview that a God exists. It is not under the category of stance independence or objectivity that a God exists.
Right. It's like, if God exists, then God wants this to be good and wants this to be bad. So since I already hold that, and it can't demonstrate it, so it's not mind independent, then I'm just gonna go follow whatever I think God thinks is right. But what I was gonna say about the Eupatro dilemma It's just this, like, is something good because God says it's good, or are things good, or does God say things are good because they are good?
Okay. And so, all right. And so, is that like a question you're posing to me?
Yeah.
Okay, repeat it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, are things good because God says they're good, or does God say things are good because they are good?
Gotcha. I would say that the question would probably need to be reworded, but it also has
Here, let me try
this.
to reword it. So, are things good because they exist independent of God's stance, or are they good because of God's stance?
I would say that they are good because God is the essence of good, not because He said so or because one
That
thing
would
is
be God's
good.
stance. That would be God's
Is
stance.
that what is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I would say that God has the authority to claim what is good because He is the epitome of it.
That would be stance dependent. That would be subjective.
Okay, so saying that God is the epitome of
Well,
goodness
I don't even know
is
what
to
it
say
means
that
for like something to be like the embodiment or the epitome of goodness. It seems kind of incoherent because it's just a subjective concept. But like, what does that mean, and how can you demonstrate that to be true?
that's a good one. I would have to say that if you think of somebody's character, I mean, and just rock with me for a bit, if you will. If we're talking about somebody he's dependable, he's a people person. This dude cares about, you know what I mean? And they're describing somebody. I think that we can agree that those are all subjective. But when you look at the person's character, you're like, you know what? They really are that. They really are just as good as this person is saying. So is it really subjective, or does it become objective in the sense that
Right.
this person is
So
just
like, if we were
really
to look
good?
at God, let's say that we were told that God is good, and we had the chance to meet him, and we met him. How would we determine that God is actually good? Like, if he said, "Well, I'm good," it's like, well, that's what a liar would say too. Like, if I was evil and a liar, then I would say that I was good. So how do I like know the difference? Like, how do I know that God is the embodiment of good itself?
I would have to. Well, let me ask you this: do you think we're using this good now? We're now using a judgment. Do you believe that there's anything bad?
Oh yeah, but again, this would just be
So
subjective.
That would be honest.
give me some. I'm curious though, because I talk to a lot of atheists, and it's like you could say the worst thing about that. We could all say like, "Hey, man, it's really bad to like take puppies out of the womb and throw them in a fire," right? And I think some people are just like,
property.
I think it's just kind of like,
Yeah,
and
we'll
for
go with
me,
that
I
one.
just like, I really
Hold on
like
with
it. Just bugs
Tiny
me
said.
that
So one
sometimes.
example, the Tiny's giving bad
To own
treatment
people as property, and I'd say it's bad to treat women as lesser than men. I would say that it's also bad and wrong to take young women who have never seen the touch of a man, like they did in Numbers 31, 17, and 18. I would also say that it's bad to take a woman among the captives and take her home with you, shave her head, pare her nails, and then let her mourn the loss of her family for 1 month, and then go in unto her, like in Deuteronomy 21, 10 to 14. I would say that those are bad things. But in this book, this God justifies these because this is the might makes right argument for God being the most powerful thing, and so everything God does or commands or decrees is okay. This would be might makes right.
And so for me, it's one of those things where it's like everything that you said was scripture out of context. And so knowing all those, I mean,
this is within
and
the
a
full
lot
context.
of what you're referring
This is
to
the
is
full
Old
context.
Testament, which is again,
Yes,
and I don't
within
know,
the full
you've probably
context.
heard it is like a lot of it is descriptive and not prescriptive.
It is
No,
in the
it's
full
prescriptive.
context.
It's prescriptive.
And so
It is
tell me,
prescriptive.
do
It is
you
God
think that
decreeing
Christians are still doing that today though?
It doesn't matter
It is
what
God
Christians are doing.
decreeing these
Well, let me
commands.
ask you this. okay. So this is where I kind of give pushback, and it's funny in
Hold
my
on,
opinion.
hold on, Daniel.
Oh man, this is where I
That
like
changed.
Lobes. I
Did
appreciate you,
that
man. I'm like
change?
Tiny hopped on here, man, and I was hoping that it'll just be me and you, but then it becomes this like tag team that like I'm trying to talk, and then it's like I
Okay,
get
just stop,
interrupted,
bro.
and eventually I'm just like, ah man, I lose interest in it because at some point I was just trying to talk to you, and I don't mind Tiny hopping on here, but it's like, bro, let me talk real quick. But it's like, okay, we can talk about all these things in the Old Testament, and they're there. I'm not over here saying that you just read something and made it up. It's there. A lot of it is descriptive. This is Old Testament. This is stuff that was happening then, and then understanding the who, the why, and everything else in its proper context is very important when
Well, nothing on Tiny's
reading
list was
scripture.
descriptive. Everything in Tiny's list was prescriptive.
It is a
Okay, so there's that. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But when we go to the point of saying, okay, so when you try to say, okay, but atheism ultimately leads to XYZ, it's always like, no. Atheism leads to this perfect world where if everybody would just not believe in a God and not believe in anything, like we
Certainly
would all
not.
just almost like. So for me, it's like
Sir.
when we consider the things that we like to compare things to the worst things that we can think of, and it's like Christianity. When you look at how it's supposed to be done to the T,
yeah.
it does not lead you to somebody who's going to treat women lesser than. It's not going to treat. You're not going to find somebody. Okay, so tell me, what's the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament?
Like
Well,
virtually
it's
everything.
the source material, and it's the life and times of the Hebrews or the Israelites and
The who?
their culture and their
The
identity.
Hebrews and the Israelites. Exactly.
The
Exactly.
Israelites, the people. It's one nation of people. It's a collection of these people's writings, and then it changes the narrative with the mistranslations of the Septuagint in Rome, creating a narrative of things like a virgin birth or somebody rising from the dead and dying for sins as being a Messiah, which changes the entire narrative of the Old Testament. There's no prophecy of any Messiah dying for anybody's sins in the Old Testament. That's just not even in the slightest true.
I would hold that that's a fringe argument, but nonetheless, it's still a valid one. I think that there's that's a very, I think any person who's serious about Bible scholarship would not come to that consensus, but I'll leave it at that and say probably you're right. I don't agree with it, but subjectively you could be right. But again, it goes back to this thing where it's like everything that you just said, though, Tiny, as far as like everything that Tiny just literally said that was bad, and oh man, I think this is bad. For me, it's just like, yeah, that's just your preference, though. That's just your preference. And so for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, dude,
Jesus
exactly.
rose from the dead.
If I
It's
wanted
your
to,
preference that he succeeded in any of the messianic prophecies. It's your preference that Jesus sat on the throne of Israel and became king of the nation of Israel like a fucking Messiah is supposed to.
but that's
It's your
actually just
preference
historic. That's
that
history.
there
That's
is-
not. That's
it's your
just like everything that we
preference.
have from the
It's your
Bible is.
Excuse me. It's your
Oh my
preference.
gosh! Hey, Lou.
that
Hey,
this
man. I
person-
appreciate you,
excuse
Lowe's.
Excuse you. Look, if you want to just sit there and cry because you're getting addressed directly and engaged with directly, then
Nah,
go
man, it's
ahead
just
and
you keep
cry.
cutting me off. It's
But
just
if you
that when I try to
want-
talk,
if
and
you
then
want- you
kinda
cut me
interrupt
off.
me, and then
You
they
cut
cut
me
my
off.
microphone off.
I was speaking.
It becomes very
You cut me
unproductive,
off.
and this is.
You cut me off, Daniel. You cut me
No,
off.
I was over here
I
telling
was
you
still
that everything
speaking.
that.
I was
Yeah,
still
because you
speaking,
interrupted
Daniel.
me. You interrupted me.
I did not
and then-
interrupt you. I was
Finish-
still
all right.
speaking. I was talking about how this figure Jesus failed at being a Messiah, and you're uncomfortable with that, and you don't have evidence to support that he was a Messiah. So you're going to reduce yourself into being a victim so that you try to look better to the people who know better, which are the people listening. So the issue I'm having is you're being confronted with the very idea that Jesus Christ succeeded in prophecies that are non-existent in the Torah or the Tanakh. These prophecies are very specific in Micah, Jeremiah, Daniel, and Isaiah. And they're talking about a figure that is not this person, Jesus Christ. There's no
Are you done?
prophecy for a virgin birth, and I would like to explain why. In Isaiah
my
chapter
gosh.
7:14, it uses in the Hebrew the word alma, which means a young woman. It also uses current tense language, which means she is currently with child. A young woman is with child, and that word they use is alma in Hebrew. And in other chapters where it talks about virgins, it says the word betula, B-E-T-U-L-A-H, betula. That means a virgin. So that word is not used in Isaiah 7:14.
So
This
are you saying
comes
that the
from a
Old Testament does
I'm
not
almost done.
prophesy about
I'm
Jesus?
almost done. I'm almost done.
Wait, just a real quick. So
Betula
you're
was
saying though
not
it does not.
used in that. It was not used in that verse. This comes from a mistranslation from something known as the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew, and the word they use in Greek, Koine Greek, is Parthenos, which can mean that has a dual meaning. It's not two words like the Hebrew, which Alma is young woman, Betula is virgin. Parthenos means young woman and virgin. So this prophecy, allegedly, was extended to this figure, Jesus Christ, and the writers of the Gospels, because they had access to both the Hebrew and the Greek. However, more people had access to an understanding of the Greek than they did the Hebrew. So that's why the Pharisees disagreed vehemently with all of these things. That's why there are still Jewish people today, and they are not Christians, and they are still waiting for the character from their book, the Tanakh, to come, while the Christians who use the Bible or the New Testament make the claim that this figure is Jesus Christ without any support.
Okay, gotcha. Well, let's suppose, for the sake of this argument, that every disputed prophecy and everything that you mentioned again remains disputed. You still have to ask the question, like, well, what do you do about Jesus? What do you do with his resurrection? And what do you do
What's the
with his
resurrection?
description of the? Excuse me.
What resurrection?
There was no resurrection. What resurrection?
Well, again, that's the part where, I mean, we have to look at history. This is one of those things that Christianity is rooted in history,
We don't see
and there's a
anything
lot of
about the
people.
resurrection in history that isn't just from like Christians.
But again, a lot of it, and this is where you see that there was over 500 witnesses, people who've spoken
That's
of, and even
that's
history, even
exclusively in the Bible.
and secular history. You have
No, it's not. It's from
who
Paul.
was
Now
it?
Paul in
Was
the
it
New
Pliny the
Testament.
Younger?
Paul in the New
Pliny the
Testament.
Younger.
Paul in the New Testament is the source for the 500 witnesses, and he himself claims not to be an eyewitness himself. So, and he also doesn't cite his source. So we would be taking, what is this, like third-hand account information or something like. There is no evidence of the 500 other than just Paul saying so.
Right. If we had 500 witnesses, we would have 500 independently verified sources. But all we have is one unconfirmed source from Paul that says there were 500 witnesses. That's completely different than 500 independently verified witnesses.
Well,
Yeah,
that still goes back to my question as to what do you do with the historical person of Jesus?
Whatever. I don't care about the historical person of
Well,
Jesus.
but so but that's not a good answer. That's just like, well,
It doesn't
you know,
demonstrate
Alexander the
God
Great,
exists.
these people, whatever. Like, if we're talking about
It
the
doesn't show
person,
that a God exists.
well, that you have to look into it. That's the thing. You know, you can't just say, well, I don't believe in it, so I'm going to completely disregard it. I think that's a what is it? It's
I'm still looking into it.
Yeah,
I still am looking for
every
the
day.
evidence that Jesus resurrected every day.
Well, I mean, keep your eyes on the headlines, man, because the more that these people keep digging in Israel, wherever they're digging at, the more they keep finding all this stuff about they. I don't know if you saw the headlines today, but archaeologists apparently have found things that are very close to the Ark of the Covenant, and so it's like things are being
So,
discovered.
I mean, there are
Where do
places
we
there are
know
places that are
the Ark
mentioned
of
in
the
the
Covenant is
Bible.
not from Indiana Jones, okay?
I
The
know
Ark of the Covenant
I know it's
is
from the
from the
Bible.
Bible,
It's from the Bible.
and
Yes,
it's
I know.
actually
Now, there are places that are mentioned in the Bible that
I
exist
know,
in real
dude. This
life,
is
and there
not
are
the
places in
Ark
the
of the Covenant,
Bible.
though.
There are places in the Bible that exist in real life, and there are places in the Bible that don't exist in real life. There are things in the Bible that exist in real life and things that don't. I mean, I think it's very just like mundane. If the Ark of the Covenant exists, then that's fine with me. I'm not convinced of any of the like magical bullshit around it. Like I would be the first one to put my fingers on it and look inside and not die. It would be so fast.
I think that's one of the. And real quick, man, I don't know if you got other people waiting on you. But it's one of those things that I realized that for me, you get to a point where as an adult, you lose a sense of wonder of like, oh man, like, I'm about to be 36 this year. So, never have I arrived at a point in my life where I'm like, I just know everything. Like I know everything so matter of
Yeah.
factly. There's not like, dude, there's nothing you can tell me because I know it all. We
Yeah.
lose a sense of wonder as to saying like, you know what? Like the fact that there's people who went to sleep the same way that I did, and for whatever reason didn't wake up. I mean,
Daniel, I mean,
they you know what I mean?
I think that's good. Like, you don't want to just say that there's nothing that you could learn because you know it all. But I think that once you get to a certain age, you start recognizing like obvious bullshit in fairy tales, like things of religion in the Bible. It's easily put in the same category as Bigfoot or Santa Claus or fairies or something. But as you just reminded me, I do have actually a line of people waiting, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you go down, and I'll bring somebody else back up. You have a good
Real
night.
quick though, before I go, I'll say Vin,
I guess you weren't quick enough. I already clicked the button.
Wasn't fast enough.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got. So I gotta do something.
Oh, that shit looks good.
Whoops. Play from the beginning.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, Lubes is getting a beer. Yeah, Lubes is getting a beer right here. Didn't you hear that boy Lubes is getting himself a note of beer? Yeah, so you should get one too. I said it's beer time. Yeah, it's beer time. Whoa. Flippity flappity flapping do below below below. Bitch. What kind you get? Ooh, that shit looks good. Yeah, baby, yo. Bitch.
Yeah, and they were not connecting, so we'll try the next guest. It is beer time, by the way. Let's bring up Taylor. Hey, Taylor, you at least 18.
Hi, Lopes, it's me again.
Oh shit. I don't remember you. My bad.
Literally yesterday.
Yesterday I didn't stream.
No, sorry, the day before.
Okay, I was supposed to stream yesterday, but anyway, yeah, man.
Because you were saying how God is. You put God is evil, Satan is good, or something.
Better in either role, yeah. Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I just don't remember. I talked to so many people.
Nah, you good, man. I just wanted to start off before we get into the debate. I literally spoke about Christ on another person's stream. They said, "Get the fuck out, you fucking loser," and then they banned me from the live, which I thought was hilarious. By the way,
That was really sweet.
yeah, it's so nice, right? But no, I just wanted to touch on the point of if God doesn't like exist, and my best evidence, I guess, we can show is how did we end up here?
That
Like,
just
could you
depends on what
answer
you
me
mean,
that
like,
question?
Do you mean us biologically, or are you talking about like the universe itself?
Why don't we say all of it? how did
So
everything come
what's
about?
the explanation
I
for
mean, except from the
existence?
Big Bang, but again, there has to be a point of existence before the existence.
Well,
Nothing can come out
that's
of
a
nothing,
direct
you know?
contradiction. Like if
No,
before
what I mean
existence,
is
there's no
nothing can come
existence.
out of nothing. Like,
I
if you
agree.
have nothing, nothing's gonna
Nothing.
happen.
I don't think you could ever possibly have nothing. I think that entails a contradiction whenever you try to describe what that really means.
I don't think
Okay,
the sentence
well,
before time makes sense because before is a temporal connotation, and that would deal with time. So that's like saying time.
well, yeah, I mean, time's a human construct anyway, if you really think about
Not
it.
exactly,
But
yeah.
it's besides,
No,
like, what I'm
time
trying to
is
get at is, like,
time is the progression from one state to the next.
what I'm trying to get at is you need a beginning point for everything, right? So,
I don't
like,
grant
Right?
that.
well, you can't.
If you're if you're
Nothing
saying
can
that
appear just out of
if
thin air. Like,
everything
I can't teleport. I can't shift my
everything
atoms to another
if
point
everything
in this
needs a
earth.
beginning, your God needs a beginning.
What if he's omniscient? Is that the word? I believe.
You mean eternal?
What if he can't explain for our beginning? What if we don't have the knowledge to seek the beginning of him?
You can't use God for a valid inference there.
But why not?
Well, if you don't know what it is and you can't justify that this is the case, then we can't use it in an argument.
Well, we have the proof that I would argue we have the proof of him existing through Jesus Christ himself, strung up on a cross and dying.
But like Jesus existing doesn't have anything to do with God existing, in my opinion. Like I think that the people have mapped God onto that story, but there's a lot of people who have existed who either were supposed to be God or like the Son of God or like this the fact
Isn't
that
that
this
also
happened
explained
proves
as the
God.
Antichrist? I mean, as a former Christian, you should know about the Antichrist, right?
Yeah, I mean technically I fit the definition of Antichrist by some people.
Well, I would disagree because you again, if we look back, I can't remember whereabouts it was or what chapter, but it specifically warns us of the Antichrist having the power of Jesus, but so everyone follows him, right? And then it performing miracles just like Jesus.
Well, that's the Antichrist, not an Antichrist. I think but anyway, it does I'm not really too interested in all that because that's like assuming the paradigm, and I don't think that Jesus existing and being crucified does anything for the paradigm. Even if he was resurrected, it would be insane, and I think it would be something. But it wouldn't necessarily prove the paradigm because
But it's also in the book of Enoch. It describes the coming of the Antichrist. If you look at it, I mean, you could argue that he's already on this earth today through the way that things are going. Especially if we look at someone called Elon Musk. I would argue that it's a possibility and it's already foreseeing what is to come.
Trump is the Antichrist.
I used to think that Obama was the Antichrist a long time ago.
I think if you look at it, is Trump trying to put a fucking chip inside of people? Is he trying to control their minds and hijack them pretty much and make them into a robot?
Well,
I mean, so this is you have a prediction in the Bible that's talking about the mark of the beast. So you're going to be looking for this, and anytime something comes along that seems to fit the description, it's enticing to jump all over that. This is a similar phenomenon where people say that the end is coming next week or something. I mean that's happened all throughout history ever since the earliest time in history that we can go back several thousand years BCE. We have end times predictions that it's coming soon, and I think that's similar to these end times prophecies or the signs of the Antichrist. When you've got And you've got
But he
predictions
has a
made.
mass following. That's what it described as. He gains a mass following. He makes everyone follow him.
Yeah, so
Right?
that's gonna
Everyone
like,
believe in him.
I understand that's gonna like make the superstitious and like it's gonna make them like on edge because that's what their book predicts. I guess that I'd be saying you, not they, but like your book kind of predicts that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he's the Antichrist. I think that like you could definitely have that be the case and somebody have a false idea of an Antichrist, and now they're all scared because of their false belief in this Antichrist when really somebody just happened to fit the description. I see the similarities that you're drawing, but this is like this does not prove God's existence in the slightest.
Well, I would argue differently simply for the fact of if it doesn't prove it, then why was it warned about? And why is
I
it
don't know the
possibly
intention. I don't know the
foretelling?
intention of like the writer of Revelation, so I don't know what the intention was.
Well, would you argue what is a revelation? It's an idea. It comes, it's
Yeah,
proof. It's
it
something
seems
that's
like the
there.
guy who wrote Revelation was just like on something, to be honest. Like I'm not compelled to take it seriously.
But what's the definition of a revelation?
Is something's been revealed to you, I suppose. Like you
There
had
you
like an
go.
epiphany.
How's it just being revealed to him though?
Well, I'm not gonna just assume that something was actually revealed to him because he called it revelation, or somebody after the fact called it
But
revelation.
again, it's been proven in when Jesus was in the desert. The devil appears in front of him. He revealed himself. He gave him an offering. He was
How do you
like,
know
"No,
this
do
happened?
this."
We like you keep bringing up things that we're not going to be able to just automatically agree with you on. Like I don't think that the devil visited Jesus in the desert because I don't hold that the devil exists. So that story's obviously not true. But like even if the devil did exist, I might be like, well, how did we know that this story actually happened? Nobody else was present. Did the devil tell somebody? Did Jesus tell somebody? Is Jesus who he says he is? Like, did he lie? Is it possible? There's all these questions you could ask. It's like, even if you were to tell somebody about the conversation that we're having, their account of it would not be perfectly accurate to what actually happened during this conversation, right?
So if I asked Tiny what happened in this conversation, it wouldn't be exactly accurate.
Yeah, it wouldn't be exactly accurate.
How so? Because
Well,
he's here right now. He's listening in.
Yeah, well, so Tiny, before this sentence, what was the last sentence that I said verbatim?
You said wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Okay, right. Really?
Pretty close, but not quite. I do like the Wiggles, though. I fucks with the Wiggles. I have a 2-year-old son, and oh my god, thank you for reminding me.
I mean,
toot chugga big red.
You could just tell he's lying though, because why would
but
you
it doesn't matter what he
say
said, 'cause,
wiggle,
like, you
wiggle,
can't-
wiggle
you
in the
can't
middle of
remember-
the conversation?
Because it's just like, because it doesn't matter what he says, he's not going to be able to remember what I said before that sentence verbatim, let alone if he were to the next day tell somebody about it and try to recall what it was said verbatim and then them write it down, because Jesus isn't the one who wrote anything. This is somebody else's account, and this would have been, actually this was in the
An
Gospels,
eyewitness
so this would have been
account,
no. This would have been like decades at best after the fact.
I think it was 30 AD. I think it was 30 years after.
No.
30 AD? That would no, because Jesus would have been crucified at 33, and he was born. What was it like? He was born 6 CE and 4 BCE, or the other way around. He's born at both those times, I think.
You got it right. Yeah.
Okay.
4 BCE in Matthew, according to King Herod the Great dying historically, or 6 CE with the census of Governor Quirinius, or 680 if you want to use BC and 80. It was 4
Right.
BC for Herod the Great and 680 for the
Quirinius.
census.
Right. Yeah, and so like obviously this wouldn't have been written at like 30 CE because the Gospels weren't written until at best the late 1st century.
Yeah, we can be as generous as possible and say around 70.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna say what happens in like to you after you die then, like because your soul doesn't exactly evaporate.
Wait,
It
like,
has
do you
to
want
be
to?
judged and
I want to just acknowledge. Like, are we gonna like change the subject? Or do you want to acknowledge or like
We're
respond to what we
pivoting.
were talking about? Like, because this is a major pivot.
okay. Yeah, no, that's a valid what. Sorry, I was sidetracked. What?
Can I answer?
Yeah, go.
So, my purpose in the afterlife is to beat the holy living fuck out of every single god that has ever been described by human beings. And I mean obliterate, like all the possible ways in which you can just decimate another human or another being. I'm going to do that to these gods. This is my purpose in the afterlife.
Those gods don't even know that you
Face off
exist,
these
though,
bitches.
Tiny. Like, they've never even heard of you.
Can I just say 1 Kings 12:17 to that? If Baal really is God, maybe you should pray louder. Maybe you should wake him up. Maybe he stepped out for a moment. Maybe he is asleep. You should pray louder and wake him up.
Is that Elijah?
I believe it's 1 Kings.
No, I mean, like, is that the
12:17.
prophet speaking? I think that's Elijah, right?
Yeah,
He's
it
like
was.
mocking and taunting them because. Wait, let me look that up. What happens in that one?
I believe it was Elijah. I don't have, my Bible's all the way over there.
I got
don't
mine.
have
Let's
it
check
there.
it out because I think that something messed up happens in that one. Let me see.
Let me go grab it. Hold on.
Okay, 2 Samuel and the 1 Kings. Oh, what was the chapter and verse again?
1 Kings 12:17. Let me 1 Kings 14. 12.
But Rehoboam reigned over the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah. That's 12:17.
I have it highlighted. Hold up. Sorry.
First Kings?
I believe so, yeah.
It's not Second Kings?
Might well be. I have it highlighted. Should have got it prepared, really. That's on me. It could be 2 Kings.
Well, I'm there now. At that time, King Hazael from Aram went up and fought against Gath and took it. But when Hazael set his face to go against Jerusalem, and then it cuts off in the middle of the sentence. That's 12:17 in 2 Kings. I hate it when the verses are like in the middle of a sentence. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's whack. Try First Kings.
I did already. It's just like.
3, 4, 3.
But
As
Rehoboam reigned over the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah. That's the verse in 1 Kings.
check out Ezekiel 23:20.
I don't remember where it is, but I remember reading of it.
You need to like put the tabs in the side like I have so you can find them while the book's
Yeah,
closed.
I should really do that. I had a bookmark for where I was reading, but
701, page 701. Ezekiel, what am I looking at, Tiny?
if Val really is God, you should wake him up.
No, I was
Maybe
asking
you should
Tiny.
pray
Like
to him.
he's checking a.
Oh,
Like what was the chapter and verse, Tiny? You want me to look at?
20 something.
Ezekiel 23:20.
Okay, I'm in Ezekiel. $23, $20. Oh, it starts in the middle of a verse again. I'm gonna start at 19. Yet she increased her prostitutions, remembering the days of her youth when she prostituted herself in the land of Egypt and lusted after her paramours there, who were members like those of donkeys and whose emissions were like that of stallions. Why don't I have this one tabbed?
Amen.
Oh my god. I thought the reference sounded familiar. I just couldn't remember why. It's
That
so
whole
insane.
chapter is pretty wild, and also it's a personification of twin cities, kind of like how Israel is personified in Isaiah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll be honest, Taylor. I don't remember what we were talking about at this point.
it was
Some sort of
how there was other gods,
some
and
waking something up or some weird shit.
it was about Baal.
Anyway.
If Baal really is God, maybe you should wake
Yeah.
him up. Maybe you should pray louder. I can't remember what exact verse it is. I've lost it. But
Yeah,
it
but like
is
I just don't know why you even said that in the first place.
because Tiny brought up about being in the afterlife and beating the crap out of every god.
Well, he
my
obviously
language.
isn't serious because gods aren't real.
I mean, I was just disproving the point of.
You don't have to worry because you're you're on the same page if you just let it slide. But like once you start saying like stuff like that to like refute it, then it's kind of going over your head.
Yeah.
Well, I'm acknowledging it, but I was just thinking of a rebuttal against it. However, yeah, no, there has to be some sort of ultimate.
Hold on, Taylor. Do you think that there's what are the specific prophecies of being a Messiah? Do you know what those are?
Not fully, but I guess performing miracles would be one of them.
No.
Okay. Please don't enlighten me.
The specific criteria is the Messiah is supposed to be born of the bloodline of David. He's supposed to be a continuation of the lineage. He's supposed to sit on the throne of David as the king of Israel, of the nation of Israel, and this means an earthly kingdom. And this person's supposed to bring all of the Israelites together under this nation and establish peace between all of them and all of these scattered tribes of Israel, and then bring peace to the rest of the world. This is supposed to be what a Messiah is supposed to do. And hi, Jim.
Yeah, hi, Jim.
Okay. I want to go to Proverbs 25:24. It says, "Evil people say things to make themselves look good, but they keep their evil plans a secret." Would you argue that that is most of mankind?
No, I would say that that's like evil people. I think it's pretty accurate. Like that's what evil people do. But I wouldn't say that most of mankind. I think there's like we notice the bad people in bold. Kind of like when you're driving a car on the street, you always you have this perception that everybody on the street is like a horrible driver and they have like malicious intent when you have like a couple of run-ins with people who don't know what they're doing. But then the ones that are driving just fine, you don't notice, and there's like thousands of them. So I'm like optimistic about humanity, and especially in our culture. Like I think that most people are generally good people. And I do think that there are like people who are really despicable. My wife always likes to watch shows like true crime where you've got like parents killing their kids and stuff, and it just makes me just,
Yeah,
oh
my girlfriend
God.
loves all that.
Yeah, what is it with
It's
chicks and like in
crazy.
the like I don't know.
I have
It's
no
interesting.
idea. They have a
Like,
fascination for murder.
yeah.
Because they're dangerous and they're plotting against us.
And
Maybe no.
well, anyway, like yeah, so like I think there are definitely some evil, wicked ass people out there, but I think that the majority of people are generally good people. At least that's my intuition.
I mean, yeah, I would argue we're all born good. It's society is what turns us. Simply for the fact of there was a study done, I believe it was 2 to 3 year olds. Obviously a 2 to 3 year old isn't gonna know any better really. There was a puppet, like a show with puppets, and one puppet shared like all of the toys around, and the other puppet didn't share any of the toys. And for some reason, if not most of them, went over to the puppet that shared the toys around rather than the ones that kept them to themselves.
Oh well, yeah, like that's obvious. Like that's an easy easy
But
one. Like you're
where
obviously
does
gonna
that
want to
come
be,
from?
you're gonna want to be around people that are gonna more likely share with you, right? Like if you're
Um,
gonna rather than be around somebody that you can't benefit from. I think that's like an
but what about
instinct.
morally? Where does that come from morally? That has to
That's what I'm
have like
talking
a
about.
root.
Like that's like a beneficial thing. Like ancient humans, if you have a person who's gonna like hoard the food and you have another person who's gonna like willingly share, it's just like in your evolutionary benefit, in your survival benefit, to hang out with the person who's gonna share the food. You know, you
But
have a
wouldn't you
mutual interest in
also,
staying alive.
that's one of the seven deadly sins, such as gluttony?
I mean, like you could. I mean, I think that that's like a post hoc. Is like, well, gluttony is not the same. Gluttony is not the same as being selfish and hoarding food. Gluttony is like
But that's
overeating.
gluttonous, that's greed. You're
Well,
hoarding it for yourself instead of sharing it. That's
is
greed.
gluttony synonymous with greed? I always thought it was like over consuming.
Well, it can go either, really, if you think about it. Gluttony can mean greed, because you can hoard and be gluttonous, right?
I think glutton's usually referred very specifically to like gorging yourself. At least that's the way I've always understood it. Jem is saying that they're different.
I
Um,
mean,
yeah, like I mean, I think that this is like where you might say, like I think that's where they got the idea of like these seven deadly sins. Like people like didn't like people that didn't share because like that did not benefit them. It was like kind of detrimental, and it was even like detrimental to the people who didn't share because nobody wanted to be around them, so they didn't have as much support. So it just naturally became like this sin that you shouldn't do.
would you say it's under like an umbrella term then, in a way?
I guess.
Because I mean, if you think about it, I guess gluttony can mean that, but I guess it's all about perception and the way you perceive it. But to me, like if you're gluttonous, you're like hoarding it for yourself instead of sharing.
I think it's like, well, we can just use the word greed if that's what you're talking about.
Gluttony is overeating, right? Okay, yeah, that point. So if you're keeping the food to yourself, right, and not sharing it out,
You're not
that's
necessarily
gluttony.
that's not necessarily overeating. Like you could just be eating a normal amount and the rest of it just goes bad because you were too selfish to like, what if I want like this later or that later and now it all goes bad in your fridge because you were just hoarding it for yourself instead of sharing it.
I guess, but why would you waste food? That's like a
Because you're
human thing.
greedy.
No, I'd rather share it out personally, but
Well, I'm not
yeah,
asking what you would rather do.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
like
No, I know.
saying, yeah, like this is different.
Um,
Hang on, I'm gonna see
but
real quick. I'm gonna bring up this other person, and if they're in opposition, then we'll do this next one. But if they're friendly, then we'll just hear from them real quick. All right.
mhm.
Hi, Megan. You at least 18. Oh, never mind. All right, Taylor. We're gonna continue on.
It's all good. But yeah, no, I would argue like that has to come from somewhere in the sense of yeah, it can be human, like from your ancestors, right, in human DNA. But I would argue the morals in the sense of that, like a 2-year-old doesn't know any better,
Megan's back. Hang on.
right?
Hey, Megan. You at least 18.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I hear you now. Do you believe in God?
I do, but I have a very just like different story than most people.
Okay.
So
Real quick. So Taylor, we do have another theist on
Yeah,
the
no, you're
live,
good.
so I'll move on. But I should be live tomorrow, so you can come back again.
Okay, sweet. Nice talking to you again, dude.
Yeah, you too. All right. So Megan, which God do you believe in? Is it the Christian God or something different?
I do believe in a Christian God, but my story is very strange. So bear with me
Well,
because
is it going to be like, because I like to start these evidence. Well, sorry, I like to start the conversations off with the prompt. So like it would just be like, what's your best evidence for God? But if you're gonna tell like a testimony or something,
Mhm.
it's late at night and our viewership kind of plummeted. But like, I suppose I'll allow it if it's brief. But I can tell you before you even start, it's not gonna go anywhere, because we're not gonna be able to like we don't know what actually happened. Like, we don't even know if you know what actually happened. And we've heard testimonies from people of all sorts of walks of life and different faiths that prove to them that mutually exclusive gods are real. So like your testimony is going to be something that's like personal to you, but is not going to do much for us.
Okay. So that's my thing, and I understand where you're coming from, but also, like, why are you asking people to share their testimonies if they're not testimonies at
I'm
all?
not. I'm asking people to give their best evidence. Usually it's going to be in the form of
There's
like a logical argument.
that's the thing about theology, at any level, whether they're Christian or they're any other theology, there is no real evidence. Like, we can say, like, there definitely has been evidence that things in the Bible have been, founded or real or like whatever. But honestly, like, theology is such a personal experience. And this is what I tell
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, that's
You
kind of like
know,
one of the reasons why it seems like very unconvincing to me, because it's so personal and open to basically anybody's interpretation.
for sure.
It's very like, how could I take this seriously if anybody can kind of make it whatever they want it to be?
And that's true, because I used to be an atheist myself. So this is why I was, interested in being a part of this conversation, because, once upon a time, years ago, like, my mom or my grandmother would like drag me to church, and I would like have a notebook, and I would like write millions of questions and have like all these notes with all these things. And, I would go to the pastor or the preacher, like whatever, at the end of the sermon. And I would be like, hey, can you answer all these questions for me? And they would be like, no, it's just, this is the way that it is. And I was like, well, that sucks. Like, what do you want people to believe? Like, how do you expect people to follow you if you can't answer these questions?
Yeah,
And I was very,
My experience, I've
ahead.
never experienced what people call a god or what people call a soul or a spirit. I've never experienced any of those things in my entire life. I've never had what people call a spiritual experience. I've had dreams before, I've had hallucinations before, and I've had unexplained phenomena. But I've never
Right.
had what anybody experiences or what anybody calls a spiritual experience. I don't know what that is.
Well, let me look at my phone, but so I was an atheist for a very long time, and then I kind of got into the agnostic world, where I was like, I feel like there's something bigger than me, but I don't know what it is. And then I got hired for a job, and I was at I don't know what you would call it. It was like the orientation for this job. And my mom texted me, and she was like, hey, how are things going? Like, whatever, like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like, I think that I need to leave. And she was like, who told you that? Who said that to you? And it was very strange, because at this point in time, I was very, atheist, agnostic, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, God. And I know that my mom receiving that text message probably fell out of her chair, because I, had never said anything like that in my life to her before. But I just felt it. And she was like, well, just, she was just like, you're probably just scared. Like, they're telling you all this stuff.
Hear me, Megan?
And they have to. Yeah.
Hello? How do you know that it was God?
I honestly can't explain that to you. And this is where when people that are
Right.
atheist or agnostic or whatever, to me there is no way to confirm.
What made you
anything.
think it was God?
It was just like something outside of my own brain that it came into my mind, and it was just known. I don't know how to explain that
I
to
think it
you.
might have been like if it, like the way that I'm not necessarily arguing this. This is just like what I'm
Sure.
thinking right now. I'm thinking that like Megan was raised in a Christian environment, and she might have considered herself to be an atheist, but because she was under this like umbrella of indoctrination, she's going to be more susceptible to things like a feeling being attributed to God. If there's an unexplained phenomena or like a gut feeling, she's going to be more susceptible to succumbing to thinking that God is speaking to her just because of her early environment. That's kind of what I'm thinking is what was going on there. And like
Well,
you're saying it's unexplained, but that's what I think is the most likely.
that's fine. I mean, I think everybody is, we all have to have our own interpretations. And even at that point in time, it was a shock to not only myself, but to my mom, my family, like everybody around me. And I was like, I just don't think that I'm supposed to be here. And she was like, I think you're freaked out. Like they have certain things that they have to tell you. Like this is a big job, and this is like going into the biggest job of my life. And I was like, I have to do this. And like, blah, 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 blah. The next morning, I got into a car accident that should have killed me, and it didn't. So it was a big wake up call for sure. And I still stayed at the job. Like I still like pushed through it and everything like that. But, eventually after 3 years, I left with no backup plan, no other job to go through, like whatever.
You kept that job at that interview?
So I actually fractured my ankle. My knee was super busted. And like I went back to the job like 2 weeks later, and I was like,
You left because you thought God told you to leave.
no,
and you
no,
got
no,
into a
no,
car
no.
accident. And you
No,
kept
I got into
the
it.
same
So
job?
no. So orientation, I told my mom, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. She was like, just push through it. It's fine. You're probably just like scared, like whatever. I was like, okay, cool. The next morning, I got into a car accident.
I don't think those two
And
things are related, right? Like
At all.
like the next morning versus orientation.
you don't think that you think it's like complete coincidence?
Well, yeah. Like, well, I don't know that because it'd be two things coinciding. I wouldn't even call it a coincidence. It's just like two unrelated events.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Well, I
I
mean,
was shot one time while I was driving home from my first date, and if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have married the person I did because she came and stayed with me in the hospital after our first date. And it felt kind of weird introducing her to my family as this girl I went on a date with one time. So I asked her to be my girlfriend, and she also bought me the box set collector's Futurama. So I was like, kind of just like sold. So I asked her to be my girlfriend then, and she was my girlfriend. Now we are married with 2 kids. But like I don't consider that to be a coincidence because it doesn't really coincide with anything. Like
well, yeah, because you didn't have some kind of epiphany before that like you weren't supposed to be there
no,
at
but
that point in time,
but I
or
did
that you
have this moment
were.
while I was driving. I did have this moment while I was driving. Is this like why is this happening to me? Is this because I'm not a Christian anymore? Because it was like earlier that year that I stopped being a Christian. I still believed in God. I was still a theist, but I didn't believe in Christianity per se. And I remember thinking like, is this like God like punishing me for denying him or something? But like in the same second, I was like, that's kind of absurd. Like that, like God would know that this is not a decision that I made, but a realization that I've had. And quickly I got out of that. Like I was able to like still somehow think rationally, even in a fight or flight freeze kind of scenario. By the way, I learned that I'm freeze because I just took my feet off all the pedals and just was screaming the whole time. So,
Well, of course not.
yeah.
But my whole point is that I didn't even believe in God at that point in time. And when I was in that, scenario where we were having our like what do you call it? Like our orientation for the job. Something told me to get up and leave, and I didn't do that. And then the very next morning, I got into a car accident that should have killed me. And that's a big thing. And whether you believe in that or not, like I'm not here to push my.
Well, let's think about like if it was true. So God would have been telling you, like you shouldn't be here, and you were like, no, I'm gonna stay. But then like, you get put into a car accident. So God already knows that you're going to. So God would have like given it to you in such a way. He would have spoken to you in such a way that he knew that you would still stay, even though he gave you a warning. Then he puts you in a car accident. And he allows you to live, which I think is kind of sadistic, but like, he puts you in a car accident, then, I mean, what, like you're like hook, line, sinker, like that's all it took to like convince you, like you, I mean, because like God could, it's, I don't mean any offense by this. It just seems like God is like God has tactics to convince the gullible, but he doesn't really have tactics to convince the people who are really skeptical and think very critically. Because like somebody else would be like, wow, I don't really know, like that's kind of crazy. I had this feeling that I shouldn't be here. Then the next day, because I stayed at the job, I guess that's what you meant. Like I stayed at the job, I was going to the job, and on my way I got in a car accident. I think that's the kind of thing that like you would have heightened the feeling at the time probably. Although you did say you texted your mom. But I think that if it was a really, really strong feeling, you would have left regardless of whatever your mom said. Like if God wanted to give
No,
you God wanted
because
to give you a feeling that was
think
like,
about it. At the time, I had no faith in God whatsoever. So I was like, I'm just going to dismiss this feeling because, like, there's no God. Like, if I'm going to die or something bad is going to happen, it's
right.
going to happen.
What I'm saying is
Period.
that God could have given you a feeling that you couldn't dismiss. He would have given you, he
Not
could
as an
have,
atheist.
yeah,
Not as
he
an
could. Well,
atheist.
God is
If you're an
omnipotent.
atheist and you
God
don't
is
believe in God,
God is
it's not going to.
omnipotent.
It's
God is
no, it's
omnipotent.
not.
You don't believe God's
No.
omnipotent?
Even as an atheist yourself, think about it. If you don't believe in God, you think that you're going to take that shit seriously? You're not going to do it.
Well,
You're
it
not
just
going to do it.
depends. Like, if God's not omnipotent, then maybe
No,
not.
you're not going to do it.
But if God, so you don't hold that God is all powerful?
When you're an atheist and you're on the cusp
I just want to make
of
sure.
like,
You don't think that God
no,
is all
you're
powerful?
you're contradicting yourself at this point because if you're an atheist and you have never had that relationship with God in your life, you think you're going to take that shit seriously when you feel that for the first
I
fucking
just
time?
want like
You're
a
not going
clear
to take that shit
answer.
seriously.
Like, do you
Never.
believe that God's all powerful or no?
I mean, I don't know that he's all powerful when I've never believed him in my life before. So if you're going to sit here and say that you're going to take him seriously as an atheist, the first time that you ever feel this in your life, you're not going to do it.
Well, this wouldn't have been the first. Like, I mean, I guess it was your example.
It was my first
Yeah,
time
your
feeling
first
that
time.
sense.
So God would just be like inept then. Like he's kind of like he's not all that he's cracked out to be. It sounds like in your view, like he's kind of like he's not a very good communicator. At least is what you're kind of saying.
It sounds like you're just trying to make it like something that it's not. When you're an atheist, when you've never experienced that relationship with God, you're not going to take that seriously the very first time
like,
that you feel something that
I definitely see where you're coming from, but like it just sounds like what you're saying to me is that you hold a view about God that he's not perfect at communicating. Like he can fail to get his point across.
No, it sounds like you're twisting my words because this is just it was something completely new to me.
Let me just ask you directly then. Like, do you think that like if God wants to get a point across, do you think he could fail to get a point across?
For sure, because I'm a stubborn ass. Like I'm a stubborn person. I think most of us are.
Okay.
You know, it might take us.
Well, then I'm not twisting your words because that's what I just said. Like your position is that God like is like a God that can like fail to get his point across. Like he can try to convince someone of something and just like fail. Like that's what you just affirmed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a stubborn person. I think most of us are.
Holy
And it
shit.
might take 10, 20, 30 times for him to try to show us something, and we just can't see it, you know?
Okay.
This makes no sense.
I mean, like I think that at least I think that's like very that's very like heretical from a Christian perspective, but I think it's more reasonable from like a skeptical perspective. I think that even if God existed, I wouldn't necessarily grant that he's all powerful, you know, especially with if I'm going to grant that he's all good. Holy shit, what did you just do, Cyber? Hey, thanks. That's very fucking generous, man. That was a cool homie. Thanks, Cyber. I appreciate that, homie. Wow, that was really cool. I've never seen that one before. Anyway, so yeah, like I think that I lost my train of thought. Oh, I think it's a reasonable like I don't think that people should just grant that God's all powerful just because they think there needs to be like a necessary first cause or something. So I do think that that's at least reasonable. But now like if you think that God told you to do something and he wasn't like powerful enough to make it convincing enough to get you to leave, like I guess he saw you, like, in your view it seems like he saw the future that you were going to get in a car crash, and he didn't, like, he wanted you to not get in that car crash, so he was like trying to avoid it, but he wasn't powerful enough to stop it. But I guess he didn't know that you were going to live, so maybe he thought that you were going to die. He just like didn't know that. So
What?
yeah, like, because like otherwise it seems like, because if he saw the full ramifications, you eventually come to God from this. So it seems like he wouldn't know everything about it. I don't know.
Hmm.
What do you think about this, Tiny? This like
I think that if we're using personal experiences as a metric, then by my standard of personal experiences, God does not exist.
No.
I
I know that
kind of agree
as
with
an
that.
atheist, previous or prior atheist, that there is no amount of preaching or, you know, talking to that can change someone. It's very much so a personal experience.
If I gave an
So,
argument that was like supposed to disprove the existence of a creator of the universe, would you take it seriously and maybe like potentially stop believing in God if you gave it enough thought?
no.
Oh. Do you consider yourself to be an open-minded person or a closed-minded person?
No. So the thing is that, you know, it's kind of like, I think I mentioned it in a comment earlier. But you know, if you have ever experienced things that were paranormal, there is such a thing as polarity. And
Well, so my
that
question was like,
that's
do you consider yourself to be an open-minded person or a closed-minded person?
I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest with you, but I know I've experienced, you know, a lot of things, and I'm like, you know, if these things are true on one end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum has to be true as well. So that's kind of how I look at
Are you,
it.
I mean, are you describing the law of excluded middle or something like that?
No, it's just that, you know, if there are things that are happening that are, if there are things that are happening that are,
Let's start there. What do you mean by paranormal? What does that mean?
I mean, there's definitely lots of paranormal things that can happen, right? But, you know, if there's
Word paranormal mean? Megan, what does the word paranormal mean?
I mean, it can mean a lot of things. But I've
Right.
experienced
That's
a
why
lot.
I'm not clear on what you mean by paranormal.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I've seen in my lifetime in that perspective, but
Do
that
you
was
mean that they're unexplained?
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you would consider an unexplained thing an unknown, right?
Yes. And when I
Well,
say that,
do you think that contradictions exist? Do you know what a contradiction is?
well, of course.
Okay, it's basically just a proposition and its negation. Like Lobes is Lobes the absurdist and not Lobes the absurdist at the same time. That would be a contradiction.
Sure.
So if
But
you're saying something is known and not known at the same time and in the same sense, that'd be a contradiction.
for sure.
Something unexplained that is explained or not explained, right? Something unexplained would be not explained. So it's something
hmm
explained and not explained at the same time.
Well, I can tell you, I've seen plenty of things that are not explained. So,
Okay,
and I still don't have answers
that's
to those
fair.
things, and I
Right.
probably never will, but that's okay.
Right. But jumping to conclusions and saying that, well, it has to be some sort of spiritual or divine or godly thing, that would be trying to insert an unknown into a known or
There,
a known into an unknown, right?
I have done my research. I have brought paranormal investigators into it. I have done everything. I am a very much so research person. I would really love to know, like, if there's an explained reason for things. Trust me, I do.
I would recommend, like, if you're a research person, I would like stay away from the paranormal research people because
There is no other. There
most
is no
likely they're going
other.
to just be conning you.
There's nothing
Very
about.
thrifty.
There's nothing about a research person that got me into it. It's what I have personally experienced that,
So
you
that it's
know,
not research.
say what?
So that it's not research.
It is research because when you're going through it personally,
Lots of
and
contradictions.
Well, you
no,
said that there's nothing about you being a research person that had to do with it. It was all personal experience. But then you said that's
for
not
sure.
research, and you said, but it is research. But you also said there's nothing about you being a research person that had anything to do with it. So that is a contradiction. Wish you like to get some clarity. Like, did you do research on God being responsible for these events that you experienced, or like did you not do research on it?
So, what happened to me personally, this is where I started like really researching myself, was because I was going through some really paranormal stuff, like at my home.
What do you mean by research there? What research did you do?
Like at my home, I was going through things and I was like, okay, of course, like everybody, like, you start Googling and all these things. And then you start like finding paranormal investigators or like mediums or like psychics or whatever. Like I did everything to try to figure out like the answers and all this kind of stuff. And to me, like we went through all of it, you know, even like my children were scared because we were going through all of these things. And I was like, enough is enough. Like I was about ready to sell the house, you know. I was like, I don't care what it is, but I'm just done with it. Like I don't care what it is, I'm just done. Like we're ready to go. But yeah, we heard everything from, I can't even tell you, like from A to Z, like just all these crazy stuff. And I was like, I don't care anymore. Like it's just, we're just ready to be done with it. And
Do you have any explanations of what happened from any of the research that was done?
it was all pretty vague, and but my interpretation from it was like, if there are things that are this crazy on this end of the spectrum, like if there are things that are this bad, this evil, this scary, there has to be another polarity to it.
It just sounds like you're speculating, but then like you're saying that your speculations have to be true. That's what it sounds like. It feels like you're really just majorly jumping to conclusions with this.
So you're saying that if you were living in a home where you were, you know, afraid every night because of the things that were going on, you don't think there's another polarity or another side of that that could be good. Like if you're terrified for your life every night about what's going to happen, what's going to be thrown across the house, what your kids are going to scream about, like you don't think there's another side of that that's good. Like there is polarity in the universe about what's good and what's evil. You don't think there's any kind of polarity there.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I think that's something that we kind of, speaking from an anti-realist perspective on morality, those are things that, like, we just sort of describe things that that we're just describing how we feel about certain things, certain actions, when it comes to good and evil. That's just our personal judgment on those things, based
So
on
it's
our
just made up.
values.
So it's just
Not,
made up.
I mean, not as simple as it's just made up. Like we have reasons for why we feel the way that we feel about things, but it's coming from our own personal perspective.
For sure, but how do you feel about like your perspective about how do you feel about like feeling at peace?
Yeah, I think that feeling at peace is, I don't know what exactly where this is going, but like this is one of the things that is really important to me. The song by Boston called "Peace of Mind" is really emotional for me because
Never even heard
I
of
got,
that.
oh, you need to listen to it. I was listening to it when I was in a deep state of like very extreme nihilism, and I hated it. But I couldn't really find myself out of it, and I still haven't fully found myself out of it. I've just learned how to kind of deal with it. The lyrics in it just really hit, and the harmony is so good. Uh, it's like what's the one? There's one verse. There's one verse that goes So you've climbed to the top of the company ladder. Hope it doesn't take too long. Can't you see there'll come a day when it won't matter? Come a day when you'll be gone. I understand about indecision. I don't care if I get behind. People living in competition. All I want is to have my peace of mind. It's a pretty nihilistic song. It's just like, and I know I didn't like, I know I didn't like. Sorry guys, you didn't even fill the meter, and I still sang to you, so I apologize for that. But like, it's like, it's really hits me because that is all that I really want from my experience is living is peace. You know, I want peace, and like I want to feel satisfied. If I'm in the face of adversity and I feel peace, then I'm not really in the face of adversity. If I've got like death in 5 minutes, but I'm at peace, then it doesn't matter. You know, I can face it. It's gonna be easy. So no matter what you think is going on in life, the importance that you give to it, or how scary some things might be, if you have peace, it's the ultimate like nullifier of those things. You know what I mean?
And I
Like,
think that's beautiful. I don't, necessarily think that, if you don't believe in God that you're going to hell. Like I said, I was an atheist for a very long time. And I found, my higher power in a very different way.
Higher Power is another song
Um,
by the same band. That's funny.
yeah,
Off the same
but
album.
I don't, I don't think that I'm the, like, what do you call it? Like just the average Christian that,
You're certainly not. No, you're certainly
yeah.
not. If you hold that God is not all powerful and all knowing, like it seems like you're saying, you're certainly
Well,
not.
no, I didn't say that actually.
Well, but you did, like, because I asked
No,
if
I did
he was
not.
all,
You said
because
that.
I asked you, no, because I asked you if God is all powerful, if he could fail to communicate, and you said, like, yeah, of course he could fail to communicate, like, because I'm stubborn. That means he's not all powerful. Like, you affirmed that.
I'm super stubborn.
Yeah, so
He
God's not
can
all
communicate
powerful.
all he wants to,
Yeah, then
but
he's
if I
not all
can't receive
powerful.
that,
Right, like, so,
he is
yeah, so,
powerful.
but he's not all powerful. Otherwise, he'd be able to convince you regardless of how stubborn you
No,
are. Oh, yeah.
and we're human.
Yeah,
We're
he's
human.
God. Like
We're
he's God. Like wait,
he's
wait, wait.
God.
I
We are
thought we already
not.
like established this like way earlier on when I was asking. That's why I asked the question because I wanted to get clarity on this because I was assuming that you thought that God was all powerful. It seemed like you were saying that he wasn't because of like him not being able to convince you. So I asked the question and you affirmed that like God is not capable of convincing you because you're too stubborn. And so I took that to mean that you don't hold that God's all powerful because if God's all powerful, it doesn't matter how stubborn you are, he can still convince you.
No, like you said, you assumed that you thought that I was God that was all powerful. I do think he is all powerful,
Well,
but we're
then
human. He's God.
that completely changes
Completely different.
that like
No, it
completely
doesn't.
changes everything that we were talking about before because if God is that no, that completely reframes it. That means if God is all powerful, then he could have convinced you to leave the job, to leave the orientation in that moment, regardless of how stubborn you were. He could have just like convinced you somehow.
No,
Oh
that's
yeah,
not really how. That's not
that
really how it works.
it is how it
You
works. If
know,
God's all
it
powerful, he could
isn't.
have. It absolutely is. What do you think all
But
powerful
he gave us
means?
free will because of that.
Free
He
will doesn't
doesn't
exist.
force. Yes, he doesn't force his will on us. I
Free will,
chose to leave.
he doesn't
I
have a
actually
choice. Like
chose.
he can't not force his will on us. Free will can't
Yes,
exist.
he can. He. Listen, I chose to leave my job because I was out on the road all the time, and I was unhappy. I looked out upon a rooftop one time when I was at my old job, and I was like, I don't know what's out there for me, but I don't know what else to do, and I just quit. I had no backup plan. I had no plan B,
If I'm
and I
like,
was just like, you
I
know
understand.
what?
Like, but this, like, what you're saying though, is in conflict with what you said before. If God is all powerful, then God can do anything, and I'll say like anything that's logically possible because that's what people usually mean these days. And it is logically possible for God to convince you of anything. Like, I mean, I can force you to believe certain things from way over here, wherever I don't know where you are, but all the way from my chair, I can force you to believe certain things. But like, can you see the screen? By the way,
I see you.
yeah. So like, um, no matter what I say, you'll believe I'm holding up 5 fingers. I've forced you to believe that. Like I've convinced you based on your vision. I know that your vision is a reliable source of information for your brain. So I can hold up 5 fingers and say I'm holding up 1 or 3 or 20 or whatever. But it's not going to convince you because I know the most convincing thing for you about how many fingers I'm holding up is going to be just holding up my hand to the camera and letting TikTok show you. Now God has so much more power than me. If God wanted to convince you of something like you need to leave because of he could have said, "Hey, listen, you need to leave because of XYZ reason," or I guess you're going to get in a car accident tomorrow if you go to work, or maybe stay at this job, but like if you stay at this job tomorrow there'll be a car accident. So like skip the first day, even though it's a bad look. Now like um he could have done that, and you would have just bailed right there, especially if you heard it audibly. Like, if God's all powerful, then he can make an audible sound. I mean, I can make an audible sound. I'm doing it right now. I'm not more powerful than God.
Now to
Yeah. Like, I'm not more powerful than God. Like, if I could convince you to leave, like, if I barged in there, was like, listen, Megan, you don't know me, but I know you, and there's somebody who's out to get you. We got to get out of here right now. Believe me or don't. I just left. I think you'd be uncomfortable enough to, like, probably leave. Maybe not follow me because you don't know me or trust me. But like,
As an atheist, I probably would not be, especially somebody that doesn't trust anybody. This is why I'm trying to explain to you
good night,
why it was
Tiny.
such a big. This was such a big turning point in my life because I didn't believe in God at that point in time in my life.
I don't think you're really
Especially to
understanding what
tell
I'm
my
trying to
mom.
say.
My mom was, no, I don't, because
Oh
you
shit,
don't
I didn't
understand
know
what
that you
I'm
were
trying to
requesting,
say.
Tiny. Cyber. Tiny brought you up. Hey, this is my friend Cyber.
Cyber deconstruction. Never go back,
My bad. And Cyber, Tiny.
No,
Sorry, I don't have a theme
it
song for you,
wasn't.
Tiny.
It wasn't rude or anything. It's fine.
Tiny, you can use my song. I'll allow it. But I did have a question though about something you said. What you're talking about. The Bible is full of stories where God quite literally imposes his will. You have Jonah, who is told to go preach repentance, and he goes and preaches repentance, and people want to unalive him. So he says, "Nope, I'm out." And he goes as far as to get on a boat. And once the people on the boat realize that, hey, he's supposed to be preaching repentance, he gets thrown overboard. God causes a big fish to eat him and then spit him out on the beach. You have Pharaoh, where God straight up tells Moses, hey, I need you to go tell Pharaoh to let the people go. However, he's not going to do it right away because I'm going to harden his heart so that, the world can know my glory. And then God commences to harden his heart repeatedly.
That's true.
You look really bored.
Hmm?
I said you look really bored.
I was just like waiting for your response to what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just curious, like, where do you get the idea that, like, God can't, like, force you to do things?
Or at least believe things.
Yeah, or believe things, yeah.
You asking for my answer?
Yeah.
He can't force you to do anything.
Did he force Pharaoh's heart to get hard?
No.
The book says it did. He tells Moses he's going to do that.
Well, that's where, it's kind of like when I started this conversation, I have a very different view of, just the Bible in general and my own spiritual journey with God.
So what's your view of the Bible then?
I don't believe everything in the Bible. I'll tell you straight up.
How do you determine what's true in the Bible and what isn't?
I don't.
So you just
Do you trust?
like, it's a gut feeling. You read it and you're like, what? You just wing it?
I wouldn't say I just wing it, but I think that God speaks to us all in different ways. But do I believe that a burning bush spoke to a man? There's definitely different. There's definitely a different. That's not literal.
Well, hold on though. But because as I listened, you described things as like being thrown across your house, right? So I'm guessing you're talking about like poltergeist activity and stuff. So you're gonna believe that like dark spirits can grab objects and like throw them across your room, but God cannot reveal himself to Moses in the form of a burning bush.
I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that it's very real when you literally see something fly across a room.
Well, no, that's not the question that I asked. So the question I asked, though, is that you believe, right, via your own witnessing, sure, but you have a belief that spirits can throw things across the room. But when you read a story about God revealing himself to Moses via a burning bush, you're like, no, that's fake.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
That is what you said.
No.
You said, I don't believe that God or that man
You said
talked
it's
to a
not
burning
literal.
bush.
You said it's not
It's not
literal.
literal. It's not. I don't believe that it's literal. I think that there are so many metaphors in the Bible that we can't even possibly bring ourselves to believe.
Why do you think it's not literal? Like, what made you come to that conclusion?
Because there has not been any one soul that I've ever heard of that has ever been through that in my entire life or even
Moses,
before my life.
you heard about You heard about Moses going through that.
Moses is the last person and the first person that I've ever heard going through that. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I've
As a
never heard
former
of I've never
atheist,
heard of anybody other than like just Jesus dying on a cross for everybody's sins and rising from the dead 3 days later. Never heard of it, so obviously it's just like not
but
literal.
you've never heard of somebody going through, poltergeist activity before?
Oh, I've heard of that. I mean, it's obviously like
Right.
not true
That's what I'm
though.
trying to tell you, is that it is difficult for atheists who have never experienced anything like that before to believe that. And this was hard for me to believe as an atheist,
I think it's easier for people
right?
who already believe to believe it because
That's what I'm saying.
because of like confirmation bias though. If
Right.
something fits into the mold of your belief, it's going to be easier to believe in it. If something seems to contradict what you already believe, if it's a belief that is like a dogma, then you're more likely to reject it because of your confirmation bias. And something that's
Right.
more mundane, you also are more likely to bolster up to be more than what it is because you are looking for reasons to validate the thing that you just don't have evidence for.
That's what I'm saying. Do you believe that a burning bush spoke to Moses?
Oh, certainly not.
Okay.
No,
All right. That's what I'm
but we
saying.
don't believe paranormal activities happen.
At all. Like,
Depending on
just
your
like never.
definition, it just means like adjacent to normal technically.
Mhm.
But like yeah, like I wouldn't say that magical poltergeist bullshit. No, that's obviously not true.
Just never happened ever before
No,
in
never
Nope.
happened.
historical. Okay.
Like for example, we would be able to falsify this, right? If so one thing that like charters like poltergeist activity is repetitiveness. It happens repeatedly. And it sounds like what you've been saying, like it's something that's kind of happened repeatedly so much that you've had investigators come and look at this. But paranormal investigators are known like snake oil salesmen. If you're to bring somebody like Lobes and myself, if we were to come over and say we spent like a month there, right? If we saw something, then yeah, something could change our mind, but chances are that we wouldn't see anything. And then it's just going to turn into, well, it just wasn't happening while you guys were here. And then as
Right.
soon as we leave, boom, you're going to have another thing that happens. Be like, see, it just didn't happen while you were there.
Yeah, the paranormal investigators, they're in the business of convincing people that this shit is true, and like the easiest thing to do is to get people who are already like on the fence or already believe and like reinforce their belief so they'll have like repeat customers. So they're conning
But
people.
do you
And
understand that the whole reason that people call paranormal investigators is because that they're having an issue that
Yeah.
nobody else is willing to try to address?
Well, they call them because they already are like more or less convinced or at least open to the idea of it being something that it just can't possibly be. So they're going to
They're
go to the people who are like specialized in bullshit to deal with the bullshit.
But like for example, I have a friend of mine who used to be a paranormal investigator, and he would straight up tell you today that a lot of the items that they use detect um, magnetism in your house, magnetic activity in your house. And so they'll use stuff, and then whenever they walk by an electrical outlet, it's going to spike because they're going by an electrical outlet. If they walk between two electrical outlets, it might spike if they go by a light source. So anytime they're going by wiring, stuff like that. And sometimes you may have, just depending on how your house is wired, and so they'll go to certain areas, and it turns out that like there's certain areas of the house that have more electronics in them than others. But this is what causes these things to happen. Cameras also kind of pick up this stuff as well, because it's just how the cameras work. It's how the lenses work. They tend to pick up electromagnetic activity. It's not that there's a ghost in there or anything. It's just how the cameras work. They're just picking it up, and paranormal investigators exploit this. Like it can all be
So,
explained.
so let me ask you this then. If you believe that, and you believe that, do you believe that you go to heaven when you die?
No. However, I don't I believe that it could be the case, but so I don't believe in souls personally. I haven't been shown enough evidence, but let's say souls do exist. It could be the case that like reincarnation's a thing, right? You can have reincarnation, but no God required. Now, I don't personally believe in reincarnation, but the idea of a soul existing has no need for a God. So let's say there's a malevolent soul, an evil soul. Well, that still doesn't get you to a God. That could just be like an evil person who just never left Earth, and no God required.
Under certain, actually, I'm more and more sympathetic to the reincarnation idea, just because of like the thought that I've been giving it under certain parameters. Like for instance, and then none of this has to do with the spiritual either. Like my thought is, if the consciousness in the first person like qualia that we have is a product of material being put together in a specific way to bring about our consciousness, to generate it from like a brain structure or whatever, given enough time, this happened once. But if we have this like cyclical big crunch into big bang into big crunch into big bang idea that's gaining traction in physics, not proven, but like gaining traction, then that would make me think that like if it goes on infinitely, then infinite outcomes would happen, which means the same outcome would happen again. Or potentially something that you could experience in the first person from maybe a different perspective that's open to possibility. But if the exact same circumstances that led to your consciousness can happen more than once, then it will happen more than once. If it given an infinite time. But that has nothing to do with spirits or anything.
Cyber, I'm waiting on your response on that one.
What was the question?
Oh, it was just like it was just like my take on reincarnation. I think it's like if we have any kind of afterlife, it's the most plausible. If you have like an infinite series of big bangs and crunches where all of the energy is like just being repurposed to be into, it goes into infinite different types of forms, which
Yeah,
could
I
result
got it.
in yourself coming into existence again. In fact, I think it would necessitate, because it's not like it's 1 in a trillion or 1 in a sexagentillion or 1 in centillion chance. It's like 1 out of it. You've got an infinite number of chances.
Yeah, did you see this guy's name? It's Lobes the Absurdist. This guy's going to like super heretic hell. But no, but and that is a stance that one could take. But either one of our stances still doesn't require a god. None of these stances gets one to a god.
And that's the thing too, is that nothing ever requires a god. You know, if you are in any way, shape, or form spiritual, you know, and I say spiritual in a very a loose term, it just means that you feel a connection with some kind of higher power, whether it be a Christian God or
Dwayne
anything
Johnson,
else.
yeah.
Yeah, well, like for example, I'm
he's more powerful than me. He could probably take
Yes.
3 of us at once.
He's pretty fun, but he's not my God.
Well,
But
like for example, I'm Jewish. I'm atheist, but I'm Jewish. So there's a unique connection that I have with Hashem, with God, but that's because of culture. I'm culturally Jewish. I'm ethnically Jewish, and because we're a tribe and we're a people, and we have a culture. That's the connection. Do I think that God exists? Absolutely not. But there's still like that connection. Right. So even having like a spiritual connection to something still doesn't mean that something exists.
that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Can you explain that further?
Yeah. So like if you read in the Tanakh, the Hebrew scripture, we're given laws, and when we don't follow laws, our mythology has God punishing us by exiling us out of the land. And then we redeem, well, a remnant of us redeems ourselves, and then we end up back in the land, and then we go wayward again, and we're removed from the land. And these correlate with real world events like the Babylonian exile. The Jewish people as a whole, we were never enslaved in Egypt. That's a mythological story. That's not to say that there couldn't have been a small contingent of Hebrews that were exiled or that were enslaved in Egypt, and their story got passed on. But as an entire Israelite people, the mass enslavement never happened. And so the way we describe these from our ancestors' perspective is, well, we made God mad and we got removed. When we made God happy, when we repented, those of us that repented were allowed to return. And it's just a yo-yo effect. And so that's the mythology, and that mythology is what ties us together as a people.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the live. I should have done it about a half an hour ago.
Cyber comes up and Lobes runs.
Yeah, I can't hang, man. Like, your arguments are just too. I can't keep taking the rhetorical back shots.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, too many. So anyway, thanks Megan for coming up. Thanks Cyber, of course, as always. Let's see. I'm gonna pick out a raid here. Why is it asking me to do this? Skip that. Who can we raid? Let's check it out. Okay, Yodi's live. We all gotta go raid Yodi. You already know about Yodi. Just go there.
And hold on. I was just gonna say real quick, it's not low tier Lobes. Like, that's mean. It's just no shot Lobes. All right, cue the music.
Hey, 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 yachty, 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 yachty. Is it yachty? Yachty, 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 yachty. Is it yachty? Bitch.
All right. Good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow. See y'all at Yodi's, actually.